Om Benza Sato Samaya Manupalaya Benza Sato Tenopa Tishari no Mebawa Soto Kayo Mebawa Soto Chayo Mebawa Angarato Mebawa Sarva Siddhe Me Parayesa Sarva Karma Sutta Me Siddham Shiyam Kuru Ahara Ho Bangave Sarvata Gata Bezama Meza Beze Bhavama Samaya Sato.
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merits of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of the happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. I beseech the great Vrajadhara, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, Pakmodrupa, Lord Jigten Sungun, at the feet of the root guru, who possesses the three ways of kindness, and all the root gurus and spiritual masters of the lineage, the Idams and Dharma protectors. May your marvelous blessings permeate my mind.
Tamke duje shi jere sundong yinje madun duje bonjomba si je lombo tawe sha je jalbe jabla ke zanzar jagar bendi bola gare je be male ro ko lon den ro me da da lon ne simbe kanon orjin rambo je la ke zanzar shi lung yana jungur je enze bo don der zalena Jarve dimba kongla sanze pe kajurun boje la ke sanze cheme sa tuje jengkonda mandi shibjeng boje dawa tamjin chimba kumjin chijeje nyamen jogo renjin ke sanze romi chije yenje borana de don sanje gonjeng oni rasen gong zong dongze sabe lame la ke sanze da so senje namje je lo chu san ro ra senje lam da so chu lam dan ro senje la da lan chwa se wa senje la da chwa yi yi san ja wa senje la da so tene tomar de chu do chama la cham de ta hi de le chu ta tene tan ka pa pa la tene tomar de tene chama ke samba sancho simji tsi simbo gone simbar shos kange hebar sa chu ne tene tambe chu saja chimbo ngadin nyamse limbar se pala teni hunro kable yins tene hunro tela yang tumon de tumon mayin ba tene chepar ji hunro sumyu pa nani tene kaso papa la chepar ji hunro tene sancho ji sim nyamse linta ta tinana tene lebde yos
Tashitele Altama friends. So today, first, everybody please cultivate a motivation of bodhicitta. And so then the Dhamma that we are discussing is the preliminary practice that kind of authorizes us to engage in the practice of the fivefold path of Mahamudra. And the preliminary practices consist of three sections: the common, the uncommon, and the special preliminaries. And so now we are in the third section, the special preliminaries, which is the last part, the practice of bodhicitta.
Tara chepar ji hunro singaran so tara hunro sumyuwa chepar ji hunro tara samba de hinje sancho sende nguyu tini ngadin korana na yang telebe ngor pena nguyu de tara ngaran so ngadin sege wa ngadin sendu tangbo tel sancho ji semble ngore tene yedam jala saja chimbo lama namjo ngoa tatu so maayungu doa tena ne tene sancho sente te tangbo te chade yore yene yang ta tara te ngundo na tara ya ngundo na ne te dechin sumpa na le ngo doas dechin tumonde ne chepra ngondos ngundo na ya sancho sen le yore nguyu na ya sancho sente le ngo yore
And so the practice of bodhicitta is the third part of the Ngondro and also of the special Ngondro, which consists of love, compassion, and bodhicitta. And then also the practice of bodhicitta also occurs in the actual main part of the practice, in the fivefold path of Mahamudra. And here it is the first section. First we cultivate bodhicitta, and then we practice the yidam, and then the guru yoga, and then Mahamudra, and then dedication. That's the fivefold path of Mahamudra. So the practice of bodhicitta occurs in the special preliminaries, as a Ngondro, as a preliminary practice, as well as in the main part itself.
Tate kare sena tene sancho senge tene atyang ko ka chimbo indu tene ko ngondo na lebyongo yore nguyi na lebyongo yore tan dor tene ko nyamni thamchen la tene tammi jo de tene sancho ji semti cha yongo yore was de ende tene ko za chimbo cha de tene kawan lego yore pe na nga so tarang ngondo ko rampa sen ko rampa samba na lego do 당보 de tumo se ngondo tumo na nge ngondo tene chepar ji ngondo sum se le ngo tang ngu si nyamni si yomo kabla 당보 kare le yore 당보 nga so semji se ya le ngo do jamro semji se ya le di yone tene tumo se ngondo le ngo nyamni ngu si nyamni si yomo kabla tene 당보 ni ko tene sanchu ji semte ji go yore ke chembo res te mena tene tabmi pare pe na nga so yadam chla ji gong ko yunari te mai bara kare gebele kare du ko yunaya ta chira chu nyamle si hinin ji yin zonte ta tikpa chimbe riki yin zonte tikpa chimbe chu nyamle si ni yin zonte tene tomat tene ko semji de le ming go ras tene semji de rosa de tene ko nga kare tere nyamle si go na tinan du yo ras tene ko ke chimbo cha te mena tabmi ba yin de le ming go res
And so it's because the practice of bodhicitta is so important that we encounter it throughout all practices. So we encounter it already in the preliminary practices and then also in the main part practices. And that's because bodhicitta is really indispensable. We can't do without it, any practice, whatever practice you do. So because it's so important, so precious, it occurs all over. And so it occurs in the preliminary practices, where we first practice the outer common and then the inner uncommon preliminaries. And then bodhicitta is the special preliminary, the third part. And then where does it occur when we actually engage in practice? It is in the very beginning. First, we cultivate bodhicitta, we take refuge. And then we engage in the other practices, such as the other preliminaries and so on. So that's because bodhicitta is so essential. It really occurs, it is important no matter what practice we engage in. We can't do without it. So for example, if you practice a yidam deity or whatever virtue you practice, whatever dharma you practice of the Mahayana, the first motivation is always very important. And then after that, we engage in various other practices. So the reason why it occurs throughout all practices is because it's really indispensable. We can't do without it.
Dunga yu de bayina yang kangi yu de bayuna yang penan natsa kin kangi kare yuna yang ran yu la sancho sente yu sunga yina Lula Kangi Yurite, Semla Kangi Tes and Yungu Samares. Chin Tunjin is our Karit and Kangi Yunaya. Muggy Yimbak Chin Tonchon, the Nip Juta, last of a Kari Chigayunaya. Look at the Kang Kari Yunaya, Mutte Jula Yimpi Sancho just sent to you so in. Then he Semla Kangi Yungu somebody then the Sancho sent the social lion, the Hatyanke. $10 Pinto Chimbo Deba. Benamans draw Sancho same Sigua. Rangi same with Jula, Sancho same Yuna, Mutti Jula same the Tipo Yugu Sarwa. Then Sancho same the Hakan Chimo Chagusari. Tarangan so Jopanji Dismusungur, Sung Colo Meso Sancho same Sigua, Sung Colo Meso Sancho same. Tarangan so tapage Sosovici, Lulaci, Natsatang. Tene che parche la sopa yunguri pena soro ke lande dunge la sopa ke chinga so le chi nuba chi yunguri tene yimba ke taran tu chi yunguri samyata semna pe nganda yorwa topa yorwa tene te tawla tene ngaso chi ngaran so namju che ke la ta ya sungwa la sopa mangbo linge yorwa si tene 다 송원 초도 주바데 초도 주바데 따라 사주지 셈데 차그 요래서 낭생게 지 강에 희지양 쪼어데 란 초도 주바 사주 셈이 소소고 송원 송원라야 소소 송원라야 되니 사주지 셈데 초도 주바 인시
And so bodhicitta is really extremely important. So, for example, even in a temporary sense, when we encounter all kinds of suffering and problems, difficulties, sickness, and obstacles, and so on, if you have a bodhicitta, then already in your mind, even though you might have some difficulties in your body, let's say, but in your mind, you won't have so much trouble. Your mind won't be so much troubled. For example, when other things go wrong, for example, when other people kind of humiliate you or kind of belittle you, a person who possesses altruism and bodhicitta, their mind will remain untroubled. So even in this life, bodhicitta is of great benefit to oneself. And it really is one's kind of companion, one's support to feel peaceful and happy within the mind. And that's why bodhicitta is so important. Lord Jigten Sumgön had said that the most supreme protection sphere is bodhicitta. So even if you experience physical illness or obstacles, or there are some external, some outer spirits or kind of demons or hindrances, obstructors, cause all sorts of harm. For example, we are afraid that other people cast a spell of like magic on us. So actually, if that's why sometimes we wear this like protection kind of wheeler, so a protection around our necks to protect ourselves from that. But actually, it is said that the most supreme, the best protection is one's bodhicitta. Because if you have bodhicitta, then your mind will be not very troubled, and you will be happy and at peace. So therefore, it is said that the most supreme protection, the most supreme protection for you to have is the mind of bodhicitta.
nga hipati yuna penna landi dunge la soba ke lu chi tu ge ngarang la chi ta dra magawa ma mangbu chi lebing budwa te chama nga ti ting di lebi yota nga danji chembo se tene danji tele tene nga gi yin la pha nu che mangbu chi ge yorwa ke che he ta namje tin ta chado shedang Dinsim last of the Jamambo Levidua. Didn't that Chingana Toya in you get giant didn't live with Mantoya Gaja, that pen Atlantic Dongi last of a titin in Utituerta, Nashi but the Chimbuyuna Pachetaya so titin in where. Soon column has a Sancho Sim saying, Tai not dancing the Shadam meet the Bakanza, Tengola, Teni Pai in a new situation, Tambuni. Penanga can lose Chado Goni, Shedang Goni, and Dinsing Goni. To so Jati Mazesa to Tini Jan Yongudua, Hirada Yongumadoas. And there's nothing soon column is a Sancho Sim say at a rang, soon Yalandini, Sancho Sim Chot Chukuyo song. Pena Soso Chick, Soso the Zeva Sini, Sama Kawaning al Zeva Sudena, did you the Samba the Zeva you then, deleting Almama Gauta. They are called Tangala, send the Deji and cause Sancho Simpson Java Chad you race. Zeva Yuna, Yin the Zeva Samba the Zeva Yuna, the Choyan data with Yin Jay and we were a drop of Mango we are. That's some and then send the lion data with me. Deva and Titan Topodua, Ranga Deva and Titan Topoduas. Tangan to Yin Song and Zen and Ying Tons and under. They are Kawani away. They are the Sancho Simpson in Wada. Mananzo yen a pintaya, Karachena, some Nagatewa chick did any pie in or what you do. Then Tarto Sanji Antony Cosancho sent it in the top of the door. Mananzo didn't song you at the Jaselan. Zoba Sanji Yin Pin Sen Chong say do. Sanji the Kawani was Sanji the Sancho sent you was. Tara Hinkam last of Mambo as a Higo, Hinkam Devaji, Hinga Omi Tobo, Hinkam Seva Chajas Higo. Hinkam Seva Chaja, Dinner you but Sanji Seva Chaja, some Kawana Jones, some Sancho sent it in John de Bashadari does. Then the Sancho sent it, and Hajan teaching Chabu race, and the thing but the Martin Flabo race. Malam Tammy race.
And so this mind of bodhicitta. Now how does it arise? So normally, what is in our mind is this self-grasping mind. There's this thought of me, this thought of an I. And it is because of this thought of a me, this I, that we experience all kinds of sickness and problems. And it's because of this perception of me, this I, that we encounter different evil spirits and demons and obstructors and so on that can then actually harm us. So all harm really comes from our perception of this I. And that we make the I, the self-grasping, becomes really strong, really big, and then others appear in various harmful ways as our enemies. So then when the I, the self, is opposed to the other, then often the self-grasping is expressed by the way we speak, the way we come across to others. And then because there's an I, there are thoughts of jealousy and anger and competitiveness. And then because of that, we actually encounter a lot of enemies. So there's those enemies that we can see, and then there's those enemies that we cannot see, like the spirits and so forth. And basically, it's really because of this I, this me, that they can actually come and harm us and cause all kinds of obstacles. And so that's why it is said that the most supreme sphere of protection is bodhicitta. Because a person who doesn't grasp it as self, actually that person is not really harmed by others. That person doesn't have jealousy or anger or competitiveness, And so therefore, first of all, because they don't have that kind of mindset, they will not see other people or others as enemies. And so because they don't see them as enemies, they also have less enemies. So this is how bodhicitta is our greatest protection sphere, our most supreme protection. A person who possesses love and compassion for others, other people will like them. And also that person will experience happiness even in this life. Our happiness is really connected to bodhicitta. Now, a person who loves others will give that love to others. And whoever gives love to others will have a lot of friends. So in this life, even they will experience happiness. And a person who possesses love, they will also do things that benefit others. Because this kind of altruistic conduct, where does it come from? It comes from bodhicitta. All benefit for others, all different ways of benefiting others arise from a mind of love. It's because you love them that you help them. And then ultimately, it is this mind of bodhicitta that will also lead to the state of enlightenment. So therefore, in the 37 bodhisattva practices, it says, the perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So where do the Buddhas come from? They come from a mind of bodhicitta. And then there are the billions of Pure Lands, such as Dewa Chen and Akanishta and so forth. And these are inhabited, pervaded by billions of Buddhas. And where do they all come from? They come from bodhicitta. And so that's why bodhicitta is so important. And we surely have to train the mind in bodhicitta. It's really, we can't do without bodhicitta.
소소 그 르생 같은 대원 팀부 유대 같은 상주선이 뭐요 레스 배는 나랑 저렇게 다라 상주 셈 유대는 나 셈도 쉽대도 와 셈게 대와야 되더니 르게 대와야 되데 셈되는 르대도 와 르생이 대와야 코 상주 셈 되는 거예요 르생이 그 동아때야 상주 셈이 빨리 되는 르생이 동아요 도와스 되는데 배나 셈을 녀몽 빠지 유나 배나 해당 따부당 양난 차도 따부당 양난 린센 따부지 유나 될 대화만도 셈라 동하잖아 길이 도와시 랑기 셈라더니 대화 유나 산조 셈 유나 대화 도와시 내가 그 대화야 산조 셈는 대화 열에 되는데 되니 대 따부더니 마음서 참았다 티바치 미친 냠내시기 시기 여러 와시 tendency 소소 답지에서는 답아 영화 있음 저렇더니 나기 줄었더니 저다 삼바된 hinge 가장 건도 희인 바스 산조주 셈 저서더니 저 답보자 되니 냐니 쭈톱 시고야 돼 하긴 기ချင်း저왜
And so even in the temporary sense, all the well-being, happiness that we experience in body and mind all come really from bodhicitta. If you have bodhicitta, your mind will be peaceful and happy. And then your mind is happy, your body is also well. And also really all suffering from in body and mind really come from a lack of bodhicitta. When the mind is filled with afflictive emotions like anger and jealousy and competitiveness, then we are not feeling happy, are we? And we are just not naturally, this is a miserable state. And when you full with love and bodhicitta, then you are happy, even in a temporary sense. And so now we all call ourselves Mahayana practitioners. And so therefore we have to really analyze our body, speech, and mind, and especially our mind, as we mentioned the other day, to in the context of love and compassion, we have to hold on to this mind of love or of bodhicitta. So this is extremely important for us.
산초지 셈텔라 Namju ngana sanchu sem number ni shege wa sanchu sem number ni sanchu ji sem number ni de kare senas kunzu sanchu ji sem ta dondang sanchu ji sem ta tangbo ngana chola kare go sena sanchu sem domba yona yapo yori domba hyu yona ba ta hyu de ba yena pe yapo re pe sanchu ji sem de dim betene lama cha chim bu tusin de ne sanchu sem de domba hyu tene de so pe sancho sem domba to so lobjong kare rido to so lobjong si tene nyamni si tene chia chi gores ta ta domba thomena maomba domba thobial besor chi gores tene ta dona sancho sem de tene namba ni kunzup sancho sem de donda sancho sem ni gores.
And there are two kinds of bodhicitta. There's the relative bodhicitta and the ultimate bodhicitta. And so it would be best to receive, first of all, to receive the bodhisattva vow from a guru who possesses bodhicitta, a very precious guru. If you can receive the refuge vow from such a guru, it's excellent. And then having received the refuge vow, then you learn about bodhicitta and then you practice bodhicitta. So if you have received the bodhisattva vow, that's excellent. If you have not yet received it, then you should try to receive it in the future. But in any case, in brief, there is these two kinds of bodhicitta. There's the relative and the ultimate bodhicitta.
That namju ngaso sanjo sim namba ni sin namju she do to te so ko te sanjo sim namba ni sin o kunzu de dona ni de ri do a san te so hakona te ni des pinto yores ta dondan sanjo sim de ni kanji ji ri sin as dondan sanjo sim se ya te dondan se ya te ko ne lo saja chimbo te lo ko ta toni ki ta wa to pa saja chimbo don to na te ni dondan saja chimbo 동담 사주지 셈하고 그래서 teleda 동담 사주지 셈스 다 동담 사주 셈데 다른 도 공방 능들게 나나 가르친 것도 세나스 오나 동담 사주 셈데 쳇잠지 해나스 냠나스 간디지나 삼고요나스 동담 사주지 셈데네 돈이 닝지 닝보지스 돈이 닝지 닝보지 살라 모여와 주번 타탐지 당 잡아 어서 다 너들은 심진내로 돈이기 따와 또 대봐 대답을 들었더니 돈 담산죠 셈세비요레스 대따량 너데 대니레스 너데 대니레스 그단 너데 대
도 민카레?
너데 저들 너 공방인들 돈단 산초지 셈테네 직딩랜데 바오스 가레진 직딩랜데 바리세나 스튜브 타 탐지에 잡아 임버스는 되는 직딩랜데 바리스 신드사와 돈답이 여진스 신드사와 돈답이 여진 점마미 바스 단 너들은 뇽무 점마미 바 뭐요와 long betini manme junta shinda sawa os na lodin semje nelok telun jurwami pa timba sarwa shik marpa ta data betela tene don tamba to dam sanchu je semis ta tande ji reso ona kunzo sanchu semde jaza he yinyamnas dode tarade jikwane dode teniles kunzo sanchu sene ninji semjin tada kowane nombar 담자와 오스 아코티바
As normally when you learn about those two kinds of bodhicitta, then normally when you hear about the twofold bodhicitta, then you will know, oh yes, it is the relative and the ultimate bodhicitta. So what is the ultimate bodhicitta? Ultimate bodhicitta is related to the nature of the mind, the state of Mahamudra. It is the realization of emptiness, the view of emptiness. So basically, when you realize the state of Mahamudra, you understand the ultimate bodhicitta. In a sutra called the kind of elucidation of the enlightened intent, it says that what is explains what the ultimate bodhicitta is, and so it says that it is an emptiness that has compassion at its core, and it is the mind that is free from the extremes of elaboration, and it is unmoving and unchanging. It is the realization of emptiness. That's the ultimate bodhicitta. And then in the same sutra, then it goes on. And so it says, it is the ultimate bodhicitta transcends the mundane. And why? Because it is free from elaborations. It is extremely clear, it is radiant, and it is the scope of the ultimate reality. It is immaculate, it is unstained by afflictive emotions, and it is unmoving, just like a fire flame that is without wind, a still flame that is extremely brilliant and clear. So it is never changing, it is stable, it is clear, it is indestructible. That's the nature of the ultimate bodhicitta. And then what is the relative bodhicitta? It says that it is the commitment, the vow to to liberate, to raise out of samsara all sentient beings with great compassion.
돈담 그 산초 셈 돈담 내로 때니 가도 또고 요레스 가도 하고 요레스나스 당아서 남주 람통세 tene ngoptu la so pachi gidwa saje chimbo ngoptu la so pachi tende ji tene khakhe semjene lo to thuni tende yungu doas pen hung just unam chimbo sa cho sa dujang chimbo se chana tene ti tene semjene lo ha ko ayina semjene lo ha ko ayina tene teduta dondam sancho semte 하고 유사레스 배낭아 좋티 통람스기도 따라 람아 히도 산조 심바게 되네 살람 남야 산조 심 살람 남야 히인디 배나 초람 졸람 통람 곰라 몰로블람 실랑아 히기도 따라 초람도 졸람도 손에 다동 동당 산조 심도 하고 듣고 있어 말이 되는 통람 감니 되니 동당 산조 심바데 하고 ben sab je sin de ni sa tangbo de ni sa tangbo de la de ni sem je ne lo to ko yusar ba sa tangbo ton de ni sanjo sem ba sa tangbo ke de ni ti ton dam sanjo ji sem ha ko lang nga ke na ni de ni cholam jolam thongla ke de ni sanjo sem de ha ko yusar es.
And so when do we realize the ultimate bodhicitta? It is when we realize the nature of the mind. And so when do we really realize that? So normally we are introduced to Vipassana, especially insight, and we are introduced to Mahamudra. And at that time, some realize the nature of the mind. They see the nature of the mind when they're introduced to it. And that is because in the past they have already accumulated great merit and they have purified obscurations. So when you see the nature of the mind, then you see the ultimate bodhicitta. And we speak about the 5 paths, and that a bodhisattva also goes through, the 10 bhumis. And so of those 5 paths, first of all, so there is the path of accumulation, the path of application, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, and the path of no more learning. And in the first two, the path of accumulation and the path of application, one still has not realized or seen the ultimate bodhicitta. And it is said that once one reaches the path of seeing, the third path, that is when one realizes the ultimate bodhicitta. And the path of seeing it corresponds to the first bhumi of the 10 bhumis of a bodhisattva. So a bodhisattva who reaches the first bhumi reaches the path of seeing, and it is at that time when they realize the ultimate bodhicitta.
다 그쪽 배 제법 배 망보 제 산초 신 라바 랍자도 좀 망보 연구도 되는데 그쪽 시다 연구만도 되는 거라서 다 반냠ning 무스 난 로야 디테는 되니 쇼 연구 인스 아 다라페나 산초 신 야타 담보 띵하는 좀 냠닝으로 지인데 되니 소소게 빼나 아 dungeon 칼라 dungeon 칼라 되니 담보 소속에다 산주 신 동바셔서 간데 얘네들이 잡을라마들 산징 우진 듯이 지단 도나라가 잡을라마들 산징 우진 듯이 지네 되는 dungeon 딩접직 버팅더스 잡을라마 좀 된데 샤캬터바 아 센동 침베조긴 하는 사예바 산우 윤냠야 샵도지 저정도 요바 추규섬 숨단된바 어선초와 코드드는 산초 코 산지의 네버 세친지 라소프 산초 선바다 여당게 라소 드는 칸로 추정소모 초조 고와 산데부도스 소인산데다
Diga di jela desdoa, amaketi shalom.
담아 되나는도 담아 만주 되는도
Joke the ranra.
만주 라요도
Desdoa. Yete chelare. Desdoa. One second, not to find it. Oh yeah. Okay, so so normally, of course, there's that can be explained really extensively. There's much to be said about that, but we don't have so much time to go into much detail. So we will go right into the actual practice of how we actually engage in practice. So first, so there's the visualization, where first of all you see the master who is the one who gave you the bodhisattva vow as the actual Buddha. And then in front of you, you visualize the refuge tree. In a minute. The chugrang rangrwe. This to akana to.
유머 인체 바제는 찍반지 다 예, 카글라게나 바지 추사 말이야. 너는 눈이 남가라 산지 좀 된대. 요게 봤어.
This can shoutab khana lapso.
내가 자주 잡지. 그 인체 유머. 저 당보스 저 당보니 봤으면 봐 이게 봤으면 이거도 봐.
What is it stuck to? Okay, all right. So then you visualize in front of you, in the space in front of you, on a on top of kind of a four like guru, with golden color bodies of a Buddha, and the right. Huh? Can you hear me? Hello.
Ina,
can you hear me?
Ina,
Yeah.
could you please repeat again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Ina.
Mando.
Can you hear me now?
Right, we can hear you now.
All right. Okay. So so you visualize the refuge tree in front. So your own root guru in the form of the Buddha Shakyamuni on top of a four-layered throne, and he is golden in color and endowed with the major and the minor marks of a Buddha. And the right hand is in the earth touching mudra, and the left hand is in the mudra of meditation. And with his legs, he sits in the Vajra, the cross-legged Vajra posture, and he's robed in the three Dharma robes, and he's radiant with light and surrounded by an assembly of the 8 close bodhisattvas, and also by the Yidam deities and the Dakinis and the Dharma protectors.
차선.
That's awesome.
대답은 초진 산데네 되네 랑게 빼 초자친보 초니라서 사가 도스 초니사야 되네 초니사한테 대탐지라는 되네 초니사야라 단 초도 줘봐 되네 인라 던주고네 되네 초사야 세미 이역건 발라서 버세야 한 도단네 대답은 되네 개와 자친보 좀 지고도스 대담도나 다 산초 센테 대답을 거네 되네 남중하고 저주를 되네 냠니 인라 동고 거네 냠니 지고도스 당아서티 Ngondro 고도
That's it. Business connection. All right, so so then in their presence we have to accumulate the 2 accumulations, merit and wisdom, and a supreme method of doing that is to offer the 7 branches and also to cultivate the 4 immeasurables, and basically to practice vast virtue before them. So when we cultivate bodhicitta, so the way we then put it into practice is just through the 7 branches, through offering the 7 branches.
재미있게 보면 라스볼라 임베
Lion.
근데 재미있게 하장게다 기치 못 차고 때 남주 만나서 따라 남주 중바 나랑게다 너나 산초 생념네 시고나 근데 재미있게 하고 근데 내가 저 줄을 자고 심지 탐지 대화도 대외제도 dim바치스 맞아 남주 답은 논도고요 삼바 재미 닌지 재미 근데 가와 재미 아뉴 재미이야 근데 내가 하고 이런 거죠 근데 대라 배조시 강토도 되는 냠네 지고레스 다 산초지 생무기 냠네 시인도 되니 체퍼지 잠로세 인데 잠로스 체퍼지 잠로는 싸고 체퍼기 잠로세 인데 가르세게 그러세나 다 특바 침비 잠로 쳐고요 특바 침보세나 뒤지 체퍼세나 저 당아 저 따라 투몽게 잠로이나 다 첸도 지보르와 건조선을 잡는 거 뒤지 체퍼센데 산 특바 침비 잠로이나 산주님 뭐 맡아볼 받더니 잡순 거야 되니 3% 체퍼 잠로 쓰기도 3% 라니 찍고 많이 봐 심진 탐진 코와도 농할 잔두고 3% 특바 침보 잠로 되니 열지 체퍼 되니 특징게 건조선 특징 건조선은 따라 바쁘게 겐도들 되네 산조 심부 겐도 tikpa chimpi chu so ko ra te tabatini control chapsun ro telatini tikchin chamros tela tsab tsina kare dosina sanchu ningbon chi je pa sanje namla chapsun che chu da sanchu simba ya cholang de yin chapsu che se ta tela nga su ta chepar chi chamros ta ten tadodini man doya yore 초란 되게 저다 문제 대피 장조 통내 찌바다 장조 심바 라발 대다름진네 바다 대긴 rol라 핀도 산조 신네 찌지기 대긴드는 라발 럼바긴도 라발 조스네 되네 대 장사거 대 장사 말이 대 점로 대사 눈에 되네 사 지거 대 점로 대 장사 산 지거요 다대 담마거도 잘놓는 대 점로 대사야 대 링보는 우리 링보린 저도 되네 다랑 안서 다른 홍조 산초 남장 근데 냠니 지게 요랑하나 참마다 대답된 때 냠니 신데 telata 가레사 고르세나 다기 돈데 끼와 잠이 득다 동아 중에 치나 마나 시펀 솔 드로버스 산초 남친초는 ਜੋ 빠져스 너사고다 너사딘 담 범지 사네 되니 텔 삼범로 삼번 말이 대 잠로 잠로 된다 다른 거는 대 체퍼지 잠로 쓰고 대 체퍼지 잠로 너장 범지 사고를 뒤찰 사 장가 사고나 사까지 세트는 저기 왔다 얘는 잠로 대 장사고요 레스 체퍼지 잠로
So the four immeasurables are extremely important. We always train in them, and so also when we normally when we practice and we cultivate bodhicitta, we have to really integrate those four immeasurables into our mind stream. So we always say this prayer: may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, and so on. So these are the four immeasurables: immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy, and immeasurable equanimity. So we all are familiar with that, we know about them. And so that is what we have to make an effort in cultivating. And that is and then we come to the actual practice of bodhicitta. And so in the context, when we take refuge from the perspective, in the context of bodhicitta, from a bodhisattva perspective, there's a Mahayana refuge that we must develop, which is not like the ordinary common refuge. And so that is the refuge, first of all, that we have to develop. So that kind of refuge mind. So there are certain differences between the Mahayana and the common refuge, and there's a difference in terms of time, and that is not a common refuge. When we go for refuge, we go for refuge just in this life. And from the Mahayana perspective, when we take refuge, we go for refuge until achieving enlightenment. So that is taking refuge from the perspective of time. And then secondly, from the perspective of the motivation, the state of mind. So the Mahayana refuge does not just think about oneself, but one takes refuge in order to liberate all sentient beings from the suffering of samsara. And then thirdly, there is the refuge, the Mahayana refuge, that kind of distinguishes it in terms of the places of refuge. And so we take refuge in the Mahayana three jewels, which means that the noble Sangam is the Sangha of the Bodhisattvas, and the Dharma is the Mahayana Dharma. And so then in the root text, then what is to be recited is, what is to be cultivated is, so it says, which is a different text, but it says, I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. So this is the way in which we take refuge from the Mahayana perspective. And so then we come to the sadhana, the excellent path to enlightenment, how we actually practice it in a practical context. So that's on page 60. So where it says, my mothers are exhausted from the painful misery and evil they have experienced for my sake in countless lives. In order to liberate them from the ocean of existence, I shall follow the supreme path of enlightenment. And so this is the like the kind of special Hayana way of cultivating, going refuge and then cultivating bodhicitta. And so it is what in the context of the preliminaries, we have to also accumulate 100,000. And what is to be accumulated is the prayer. And also we have to, this is accompanied by prostration, but the prostration does not need to be counted. So what is counted are the recitations.
ante tarati 장사야 다른 나서 문으로 산초 람자한테 라빈베 라빈바
네, 다들 그던 또 기바 장면이라.
되게 동다 콜레 라운도스 다게 동다 지와 장면이 따라 나는 지와 과 토마미 반 타마다다 받더니 나랑 그 치더니 나랑 대타고 치더니 나랑 그 동화 망보 냥요레스 얘는야 토베한테 동화마도 내가 토비요 말이지 다다다게 리틴 잡은 데이트니 되니 라야 동화를 타와 얘야 동화를 타버시 로버스 되니 산초 셈데 냠니치기세 돈다 데리도 아스 돈다 하고야 되게 친구 카니마 로데 지고는 지금마다 돈다 하고 디드는 막 같이 로트부도 다다 냠니치고레스.
So since it is what we need to accumulate, it's also important that we understand the meaning, and it's easy to understand the meaning of that. So the meaning is that that since beginningless times, samsara, up until this present life, it is because of the self that we have experienced so much suffering, and then what we get. By striving for ourselves is only suffering. Also in this body, in this life, we only experience suffering. And so now in this life, in this body, I want to become free from suffering. I want to free others from suffering. I want to free myself from suffering. So for this sake, I cultivate bodhicitta. And so when you recite the prayer that you accumulate, you should not just verbally recite it, but actually you should really, as you recite it, try to look at your mind and see how that the meaning of that recitation really arises in your mind.
다랑에 공드는 가서 산주 셈 나바니 히엔디 다라 군접 산주 셈 거데스 슈에서 말해봤지 대엔드 다라 군접 산주 셈때 가를 간디치 군접 산주 셈 세기요스 돈다 산주 셈 공드 슈송하시 군접 산주 셈때 심진 탐좀 코아데 동할레 자고 삼벌로 텔레티네 군접 산주 셈스 penanga so chide wa tarate karna ne zojumedo tara simki pane yin don so yanda zopo sanchum du se ya tate telega so konzu sancho sem sigyor tene konzu sancho sem tela ya tene ni ro so mumba simki ta tene juba simki simi
So actually before I didn't mention them a relative bodhicitta. So there's two kinds of bodhicitta. So I explained the ultimate bodhicitta, but what's the relative bodhicitta? The relative bodhicitta is a wish to liberate all sentient beings from suffering. It is said, so it is the wish, it is the altruistic intention to liberate beings from samsara and to bring them to the true state of Buddhahood. And so that's the relative bodhicitta. And the relative bodhicitta is twofold. There's the aspirational bodhicitta, and the engaging bodhicitta.
Sancho same titani, Mag Yamni say Tara Kunzup say a tico tondam de Mahatsati Tara Kunzup Tarangarang Tara Lunga ism getting Tarangatsu give a duku Yoruba. Solvat and keep going to give a duku Yorubas. Tini tini Sancho seemed to seen it in the dupu giva ina. Tini Matsutara Kunzo Sancho sin Kenani that give a te chagir. Young around Sancho seemed to Mazina. Then Namjung around to San Sayatan, Kora Kowatan, then a Jimba Tayatan. Tandona Sinji and a pimp Sawa Mambo Dugu Yoruba. Sawa Mambo Dugu Yorete, Sancho seemed to see Mazin Somaina. Tetara Kunzo Sancho, same nanis on the Banayi, Gavate, said the Dimbachi Chagayamares. Then you rangi gave a correct Bayana. Then it tambo Simji gets singores. Simji Tetachi Dembas, Simji Tamji. Called Nongal Jarvis of the Tinin. Gavate Dubia, we go home day in Samia, then go to us. Penang as a Pediana, Jikin Bangans call on the Pediana. Tangi Modachi Nogudo, Samia. Modachi Nogudo, Moda Noya Usagudos, and then our tela Kunzup Tartel Simji Ton Drugo, somebody Tara Tela Mumba Simji Sigota, Kunzu Sanjus and Mumba Simji. Teni Moda Noji Mustangagi, that Lekachin, Changsaka Yurwa, Musleka Lando, Yamari Chusuri in the Musaya. Te Tabu. Ta Namumba Simji take it in Simking Tondatini, Lunga is Mugantini, Simji Pimple, Musapan Juya Telatini, Jupa Simjis. That tell gave a Karen and Jigota. Penangan Namju, Tarakong to Shiba in by not doing gonna give out to Bayanari. Parasimba Tong Yams Land, people not give out to Unari. Same year depending on the same Lord Jungo Unari. Dona Tamji, that's Sancho Simji simple give a channel. That data we're going to debate Latini. Tanga Sancho simple Yamni, Sancho simple Yamni and Tara Nara Donda Sancho se Hamaoja, Unzu Sancho and Taranga to Toland, the Jolams and Higio Tara. Oh, Tina and Road got Toland, the Jolanas, Tina and Reyes.
When we practice bodhicitta, the relative bodhicitta, so we practice the relative bodhicitta for as long as we have not realized the ultimate bodhicitta. And to practice relative bodhicitta involves practicing virtue, any virtue with body, speech, and mind that we make an effort in. So it is we make effort in practicing virtue. And any virtue that we make effort in that comes from a motivation of bodhicitta, it becomes a virtue of the relative bodhicitta. Now, if we do not cultivate bodhicitta when we practice virtue, it becomes again an ordinary virtue that we often engage in. So, for example, it might even be something like doing prostrations or circumambulations or being generous and so on, or we do many things to help others. But if we do those things without bodhicitta, then they're just virtuous practices, but they are not authentic virtues, activities that have their relative bodhicitta as the basis. So therefore, no matter what virtue you practice in the beginning, we should cultivate the motivation of bodhicitta, which is to have the aspiration to engage in activities in order to liberate all sentient beings from suffering. So we have said that there is the aspiration and then there is the engaging part to the relative bodhicitta. And the aspiration is to put it in a simple way, that, for example, if you have this intention of buying a car, and so you have this idea of what kind of car you're going to get, and then the engaging is to actually do it. So you actually, for example, each and every day you go to work so you can earn enough money, so that finally in the end you can buy the actual car. And so similarly, first you have the aspiration to benefit all sentient beings, and then you engage in activities to benefit them with body, speech, and mind, which is the engaging bodhicitta. And that it can be any virtue. Any virtue is fine. It can be offering the 7 branches, or practicing the 6 paramitas, and training the mind in the 4 immeasurables. Anything that you do, anything virtuous that you do with mind of bodhicitta becomes a virtue of relative bodhicitta, a practice of bodhicitta. And so for as long as we have not realized the ultimate bodhicitta, we practice the relative bodhicitta. And here we're speaking in the context of the path of accumulation and the path of application.
Sancho Simji, this scene Mazin said, give out the pinto, pinu chimbuno. Sancho Simji, this symbol gonna give us a yana. Take it, neck up and tartung is here, neck up the Tangara, Plata, Merlit in count, Topayuna, take a sunam, Juma chip in the top. Tartuk the Sancho Simji scene as I have given in the taken Tatunga, Sanji compound top of Jachan. Tangara Sancho Simji Mazin, but goni give at Dubuyona. Tangan Jictim Begiva Chadi, Run Jictim Begiva. Tapenanga the Conchosun and Chume Paya. Tam Meto Puya. Namju Soran Deviachi Yorwa. Tati Ngarape Chendula Parchimipa, Nemipa. Savalan and Rogo, Sametini. Naga Givasa Yana. Tati Pinto Yore, Pinto Chungchung Yomalta. Tell her, Nanato Negam Tartoni Higdua. Nekab with Devan Chimbums top to Gomata. Tate paid to the La Yagre, Namjo Sancho simply cinemas in Pion, give a pion de San Tarate, or some junction say at you, sorry. Telatan Revo Catset Oba in a Zomi Zod me patch. Revo Mambo me. Then it take Catset Lons Jeba in a Tadon main cherubs in Lachi Zoya me patch. Sancho simply simple gonna give at the Tetavici. Mal Suna and me, Suna Catchim in a Zomatapa. Sanji Compamato. Then Tara Sancho Simji Mazimbu going a Gavasa Yapaina, then a lynch mean it in its own royal pen a chicken dumbo sigito, chicken dumbo teleco tambon driver Loma de Yapochi Hiesari. Then it take is a tinico zone Yanju Hiesamari. Then Dautini gave it our destiny, Sancho since the same as a gontini. Nag Dubia gave a chipa in a then it take a Tobiak and they were pay church in the Then I give a cut, do not in Sancho Simtisia, in Bezosia. But they had young kitchen for those. Namjung answer Tanga, Nasam will not cheat, Chigio or Sama. Na Jen Nazutan Kwana, Corridor. Kakipe Nazutini, Giva, Mambo drum to get the Giva, jutting on Kwan Kozi Chanduda. Cover Jus, with Ko Giva and Cover Chasi. Nga pe jiwa sama sunam chimbocha lomchu chimbocha zonam banzi pocha or lobjon ya pocha ya that's all make sona kon covid jeri do ko de gewa tin koal tab tin mo gores koal tab mu ya ba ina mo mari tan de sanjo sim de tab me kwa zong gores sanjo simji ge sin gores koal tab chi de dub ko yu dub go sa ya de tab simji ti sin na chirang la Ndujano, Mandujano, China Jivasma, this unam the younger Chiran, Jachimbo, Lombe, Lobjonia, what is on younger.
So actually, in terms of the benefits that arise from our virtuous activities, there's a significant difference, really a huge difference between practicing any virtue with or without bodhicitta. And so also in terms of results or benefits ripening, we always speak about a temporary and an ultimate benefit. And so for the temporary benefit, if one practices any virtue with a mind of bodhicitta, then in a temporary sense, one will always be born in the higher realms of as a god or a human. And the merit that one accumulates is inexhaustible, is endless. And ultimately, this merit also leads to the attainment of enlightenment. Then conversely, if we practice similar virtues without bodhicitta, then it becomes a worldly activity of virtue. For example, even if it is making offerings to the three jewels, for example, you offer a butter lamp to the three jewels, or you offer flowers to the three jewels, or we often recite various prayers and supplications and so on. But then if in our mind we do these for something in this life, to be free from obstacles in this life, or to be free from illness, or to be successful in our activities, if we practice virtue with this motivation, then there is still, of course, there's benefit in the virtue, but the benefit is very small. And so also we say that there's temporary and ultimate benefit. So there's only a temporary benefit, and that is very small. So there's a slight happiness, a slight benefit that one will experience as a result, but it is not lasting. And on the other hand, if one practices virtue with a mind of bodhicitta, it is said that it is similar to a wish-fulfilling tree. So this tree has endless fruit. So many fruit ripen on that tree, and no matter how many you harvest, they never end. They're an inexhaustible supply of fruit. So that is similar to virtue that is practiced with the mind of bodhicitta. So it is that merit will continuously ripen, and as it keeps ripening it again endlessly until you attain enlightenment. And so on the other hand, if you practice virtue without bodhicitta, it will only ripen one time. And it is said that similar to, it's called a water tree, as apparently for in a water tree, the branches and the fruit grow, but they only grow once. So once the fruit has grown, a nice fruit grows, it has ripened, no more will come. So it is exhausted, there's only one time. So there's a big difference when it comes to any virtue, depending on what motivation it is backed up with. And so for this reason, it is so crucial, and it is so important to really make an effort in practicing any virtue with a motivation of bodhicitta. And so normally whatever we do, we are used to doing it for ourselves. We always think, I'm doing this for me and me this and me that. And that's really the very cause, that's why we keep wandering in samsara, even if we practice virtue. Even virtuous activities actually can become the cause of samsara. We do practice virtue, but we do it with a selfish motivation. So therefore also virtue can become the cause of samsara, perpetuating samsara. So of course, if you practice virtue, we accumulate merit. There's a merit for future lives. For example, we think that I practice virtue so that I will be rich, or that I will have a beautiful appearance, or I will be very learned and so on. But if that is the motivation, then it still is a cause of samsara. And actually, we should practice virtue in order to liberate ourselves from samsara. So therefore the motivation, how you set your mind, is really crucial. So you should think that with a motivation of bodhicitta, think that I do this in order to become completely liberated from samsara. And if you really have such a motivation of bodhicitta, then whether you intentionally wish for your own happiness or not, it will just happen naturally. So just naturally in future lifetimes, you will possess great merit, and you will obtain wealth, and you will be very learned. All of these things will happen naturally.
Sancho Simla, rangi nyamnesi, country in the Sancho Sim Lobjons, that the country in the Yamnesi to Lab Gores. Taratin and Song Yure. Chetan Hunji, the pictures, Moon Sanji to Sancho Simba Namchi. Some Chukuni, Jiba, the data Tamika Sancho Sim country Ji Yupatan. The next Sancho Simba, the country in the lab Sancho Sim to the country in the lab Yupatan. The next labs at the courage country and the Remy, the da Remy Nepataris. Then Tambo lab, the need Ranga Sim that they come this in Etaba. The name they said the Devian dollar pinned on the Sancho in the Gigi, the Yit and the Lapat, Rambai in the Lapat Dios. They da Tamji country just love you, but country just Sancho same Toki you, but the name country and the Sancho same Yamning Jay, but they our Nayan lap. The name I am Yamning Chi. The name Betsu Chi is to us. Rampai in the Lapat just on 9 years in the Tinning Atsoya. Then it data with any flap meeting, Yamning Besosia, Hatyan Kitchimbores. That day Tamji Bay, Sancho Sim say at Hatyan Jachim, things are boy inside. Then I Chapsanchi ha go to yet, Chedakable couple read us. In a tin and don't dodging, and answer that, sir. Quale la wonder, thinking as a shiba in us. Man, non cut and yam sinji tamjes. Donan door do sinji tamjes. Dewatan di. Tene Donga tamji le jar. Tene tar sanje ji compound boche, Zoba sanje ji compound boche. Topar sa nyambatini, Momba simji tatini, Mus. Deda tamji ki donda tini, Rangevele and June. Tene Betsosia. That Tindi Jepayana, Tini, Juba simji. Sancho Sen number Yangage, Sancho Zeta, Unzo Sancho Sengatini, Munju near Rangi Julatini, Yune, Tini, Betsosena, Tini, that's Sancho Semba Chai who is. Donna Rangi Lunga is a carry, Lunga is and you're going to give a carrot to Payana, Sancho Sem Mumba Simjita, Juba Simji, Mijigoni, Tini, give a tuna, Juboyores. Tate don't that le lauridoa, Simji Tamki. Don't have the driver so the Ridua, give a credit by night. Or Tinity, that day I will go in. Give a chung chung in a drugore, give a chimbo in a drugore, not catch it to the drugores. On the give a chung chung is a yaya yomari, drug to good and drugore. On the dipa chung chung is on the juya yoma, te pangors, inchi minchi pangor, ranga semnachi, Magiva namto, Karachi on a count of the ma pangor. Hedam, chado, ducha, Karachi yoma in a Pang matter, took it on the injimiji pang. The net data which ta rank pang matter button, and Nipa Sasson, Nipa in Hako, didn't tell Shapachi. River, Sinji data of my own wallet in Betsosi. Data were going to rank Lunga is on Taba, Rangarang song, river. Rangarang songs and Rang give out and Magiva. Tell a palm lang with the gang to 13 bets on Angores. Dona Naran's Samando in a summer Zoya Chibo in Ricamando, Sama Sagudo. But Sama Zone Pana Tudena Yayalgi, not to go Mato al Pingamando, Samangus San to go Mato Chigodo, bit teta. Ne Sancho sent Gongo Yudas, Ne Sancho sent Yamni Chiku, the Lobjon Ski Yudas, and they didn't do Musalani and Robores. Yamare regent, Chusu regent. Kama regent, Maranga Katsi Yamichi to win. Then Tezan Sigores. Young Kashian to two Madola Gudo. Read, Jodan like a mumble to two. Should I owe my Mexican quota, data on Yamnesia to two Mina? Tarang answered the shepherd in Ngondro, Sambat and Hinji Sancho Sen Sayati, so Singleton Shagua. Singleton. They do not sempe con sama, Simji Tamki Pingo some law. Then it didn't Simji than no Mazevich. Naga Goni Simji and Maramachi Majevich. Lujugone Sinjin and Use Magoache. Then it and reach de Baina, Co give out the Drea to so you did was. Naranko no send the Sijik and Tungumando, Ying and Tungumando. Chiran Leka Lesani, Chiran Leka Leni, Umbogi Inari, Lero Inari, some of the China or China give us Sintiendo, then Digamari lab crowns lab to Maravas. Oh, Chiran Sancho Sem Pin Sem Jedo, they Pachu Chulo inside it, and region was Leon and Digamari to Lago Marios, Tungu Marivas. And then the pins in Jeniam, Sichor, Injimini, my count to the Besu Sigores. Betu Mazena. Chiran choose up your cassette in a tonda tinan pinto yomata. Tuesday then a summer himbo cassette digiana to go to Alakaya. Topa say Alakaya, pin him and do a sago do a petina in Aga give the most dribble. Drivial thing I can bet so see. Count to all Yamichia is, and the dust and you seem to go to go shunter but in the inn. Then it jepo mango sugar to Sugan Tangamando, Trava Mambo Shuji had the us.
And so then how do we train, how do we practice bodhicitta? So we practice just inspired by the past bodhisattvas. So just as they have trained in bodhicitta, just as they have practiced bodhicitta. So as it says in that prayer, so just as the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas of the past have practice the bodhisattva's path, in a similar way I will follow them, and I will cultivate bodhicitta, and I will practice the stages of the bodhisattvas. So step by step I will emulate them. And so therefore first we familiarize ourselves, we learn how did they train, what kind of motivation of bodhicitta, how did they cultivate bodhicitta, then how did they put it into practice. And so once we know that, then we think that I will follow them, I will do the same. And then it's important that we make an effort, that we really have the intention, I will do my best to follow their example. And of course, when it comes to bodhicitta, it is the practice of bodhicitta is extremely vast and profound, and it might be difficult to understand, but really we can summarize it into a very simple kind of line, a simple kind of aspiration that summarizes it all, and that's very easy to understand. So basically whatever we do it for all beings, we say all mother sentient beings, all beings of the 6 realms. So may they be happy, may they be free from suffering, may they attain the state of complete enlightenment. So that is basically the aspiration to have. That's the aspiration bodhicitta. And then it's important to also put that into practice through the engaging bodhicitta. So we need to make an effort in both the aspiration and the engaging bodhicitta. And then we become a bodhisattva eventually, just like the bodhisattvas of the past. And so therefore, in brief, whatever virtue you practice with body, speech, or mind, it should have the aspect of the aspiration and of the engaging bodhicitta, no matter what virtue you practice. And so whatever you do, think I'm doing it in order to liberate sentient beings from suffering, in order to bring them happiness. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can be a very small virtues activity, or it can be a very significant virtues activity. Whatever comes up, whatever presents itself, whatever opportunity to practice virtue, whether it's big or small, you should do it as it comes up, as much as you can. So you shouldn't think that, oh, this is just a small thing, that's not so important, and then not do it. Even that you should do. And likewise, you shouldn't think that, oh, that's just a small negative deed. It's not a big deal, so I can just do it. I don't have to avoid it. So don't think like that too. Give up even the smallest negative deed, and try the best you can to even give up every negative thought, every afflictive emotion that arises in the mind. like anger or jealousy and desire and so on. You try to give them up as much as you can. And so that sometimes if we are unable to let go of an afflictive emotion, and then maybe you make a mistake, you do something wrong, then you should recognize that and confess it and think that in the future I will try better. I will do my best for this to not happen again. So in this way, you're really protecting yourself. You're protecting your own body, speech, and mind. So it's important to really do your best to practice virtue and to abandon non-virtue. So you have to really do it. So as I mentioned before, if you cook a food, you have to actually also eat it. It's not enough to just cook it and put it over there on the table. That's not going to fill your belly. You also need to eat it to be nourished. So similarly, it's not enough to just say, oh, I practice bodhicitta, I learn about bodhicitta. You also have to actually put it into practice each and every day, each and every hour, each and every minute, as much as you can. So sometimes people are very busy and they say, I don't have much time to practice. And it's true. So fair enough, you are very busy, but even though we don't have much time, the thing about practicing bodhicitta, which is a special preliminary, is that it's a practice of the mind. And that's why you can always do it. It is a pure motivation, a pure altruistic wish to benefit sentient beings, and at least not to harm them. Or, for example, it means that with such a mind, you are heedful of your speech and you don't insult others. Basically, you don't do anything to harm others with your speech or with your body. And so there's always time actually to practice that virtue, because it is the mind. It is a motivation to have. And the mind is something that your own motivation is something that only you see. Other people don't see your motivation. So for example, when you go to work and you are associating with your boss and your colleagues, then so maybe that is a workplace where religion is not to be practiced, and then maybe nobody is going to say, nobody sees your mind, and nobody can say that, oh, you have a virtuous mind here. That's not okay. I see you have bodhicitta arises in your mind. We don't do that here in this office. Nobody's going to say that to you because they can't see your mind. So you have to make an effort yourself. If you don't make an effort, then it doesn't matter how much Dharma you have studied or learned. It is really useless. It is just as useless as cooking food and never eating it and putting it just on the table. So once you have cultivated bodhicitta, you have to also do it, like eating the food. You have to actually engage in virtuous activities and make an effort in that. So I stopped the teachings on bodhicitta here. Of course, there is so much to be said about it, but we don't have enough time for it. And also there are so many questions left from last time.
Tange Toma de Tarati, Nadinking Ngondro Ngaranso Sancho Lamsank long the Ma showing Caris Lomandam and Mambo Udia, long Matova, Yamis do you, but the usually the Mai, Terran showing the Tene, Taran Ngondro cheat and long ya told you, the Sama Tess Yamni Chena, Tene Yapochagri, some of the Lutheran long they should be in. Tene Tara thing and Shundu Yate, Ngondro de Tara. Dharma got the shalom cigarette, Takatan tea, the long given my share, tea when my shun the attention the yate. That day, Mark Lobion Sate, Tarachang Wichitan Buchiri. Kaduri in a Nidong, Jikdong, Jikdong Gubja, Gubju Konga, Kodo to Sonanari. They do Jangun Buchitara Sanjule, Chatan Sangma, they do Samla, and Samlan Doji, Saman 100 tea. Correct Ngondro Tara Dharma got Shalom the man Chine, Teneko, Tambolo Namye, Teneko, Jamdun is Sam Menda Rampa, in the Chine Correct Chatang Yuguyota. Chine, someone Samdi. Sound the Halam Dawa that Ding then ge yemi ta tro then ta tendre chi re do den gubju ko konga ken jo ta kodok la so bat so re tendre chi ne tene ngoro de chapchang de ngoro de chapchang man ro chi de cha de nga din dara yadam laman nam jo kubye laman nam jo sancho semta saja chim chapchang de di man chin cham ne tendre chi ne de re de tene ti ti jun de ta 정보를 진행하는 데는 쉬야 받던 데에서 지난서 마셔야 돼. 되니 당가랑 원에 얘는 시세다 요 말에 냠네 요 말에 때 얘는다 지중 농주다 그냥 장가도 좀 로차바인데 쉬야나 피마토는 지금 말에서는 좀 시티디니 쉬바이 되니 갑데도 장보를 붙인 티야데 나딘 다라다마코도 샬롱나 예스네 티티니 만틴제 바리 tene nyamning te sisa te ta ngondro te ke ya tes ta ngana so tap deo sin ngondro a nyamning si tap deo chi gora tene tela tara shekan thingwa se shekan thing tene nyamning che pares tene tare ngana so thia de dama ko te shalong tene man thi indi tene nyamning se ya de tara ngondro samchol lamjang tene ma nyamning si ya che ne tene che yos tene samchol lamjang te tara ngachi no che 저런 안 소리 딱 되어서 되야요. 어떤 데인데 다 정말 농존의 지존다. 단 너도는 거 투모 많이 밖에 말아서 난축 상하고 추근하는 담보 소속 잡을라마. 근데 잡을라마 그 주플라마. 다 주플라마 신압 잡을라마 신압 저쪽 지존 민가도 기침보 인도 되니 단 너드는 뜻은 정말 하고 그랬더니 좀 신데 담봉에 공고니 지슈나상도 그냥 안 된지 라송아리 좀 신데서 어때 되는데 된지 되나 슈바인스 주름도 된지 되요스 도나 다른 모동을 안서 틴도연데 냠민지야도 티안도 되니 장고는 버치던 같이는 버치 콘나바 니긴데니 마 티준 농주 단 너드는 신나고 주바 톱데 버티니 인스
And so first I'm going to give the reading transmission of the sadhana, the practice, the excellent path to enlightenment, which is the preliminary to the fivefold path of Mahamudra, because many disciples might not have received the transmission and they only want to do the practice. So then, when we receive the instructions and we also receive the reading transmission of the preliminary practices, then to practice on this basis is really the best, it's really excellent. So I'm going to give the reading transmission, and also in terms of my own lineage and connection to these teachings. So the teachings that I gave, the commentary, it was based on the Dharmakirti Shalom, which are the oral instructions by Dharmakirti on the fivefold path of Mahamudra. And so I myself have received the instructions from His Holiness Chetsang Rinpoche. I learned it all from Holiness. And that was at the end of 1995 and also 1996. So that in that year in Changchubling, in the Changchubling monastery, all the monks were doing retreat on the preliminaries, and Holiness, he taught the entire retreat from the beginning to the end, and he gave these Ngondro teachings on the basis of the Dharmakirti Shalom, the oral instructions of Dharmakirti. So it's starting from the four thoughts that turn the mind, and throughout all the preliminaries, refuge and mandala, and so on. He taught step by step, being together with us in the retreat. So altogether, it took about 6, 7, or 8 months or so. So it was at the end of 95 and then 96. And so during that time, I completed the entire preliminaries, the Ngondro. And then also we went on to, then Holiness continued on with the further instructions on the fivefold path. So then the actual fivefold path. So of course, Bodhicitta, and then the Yidam deity, and the four kayas of the Guru, and Mahamudra. So we received all the instructions and did the corresponding retreats. And so that is the teachings that I'm giving you was based on the teachings that I myself have received from His Holiness Chitsang Rinpoche. So from my own perspective, now I myself maybe whatever I have taught, I might not have perfect practice of all of that, but I do have the transmission or the lineage of the instructions, and also have completed all the accumulations. So I thought that it truly will be of some benefit. It will be at least be of definitely no harm, and so therefore I gave these instructions. So and the instructions that Holiness gave were based on the fivefold path of Mahamudra, Dharmakirti, Shalom. And so then the practice that we did, so this was the commentary, and then the preliminary practices that we engaged in was called the crystal, the white crystal garland. And so that was the practice text, and so the commentary text, the teaching text was the Dharmakirti Shalom. And so here in our context here, we have the same teaching text, and the practice text that we are using is the excellent path to enlightenment, which is a sadhana that was compiled and put together by His Eminence Gachin Rinpoche. And so I just wanted to share my own lineage in terms of transmission and instructions, and especially when we practice the Vajrayana within Buddhism, it's very important that we receive this lineage from the root guru and the lineage gurus, and we receive their blessings, that we receive the lineage of instructions and of pith instructions and so on. So that's what I wanted to share. Actually, I wanted to share that in the beginning, but then didn't mention that in the beginning. So now that's why I'm sharing it now. So this is basically my kind of lineage background. And so, these are the instructions on the preliminaries together with the practice text. And so in brief, the lineage personally traces back to Holiness Chitsang Rinpoche and His Eminence Gachin Rinpoche. And so this is how I have received instructions, transmissions, and the lineage of blessings. So since I'm
Rabrina Chinanzo Rabrina Yamni said the Dimba, Tanka said the Dimba Chaya, they mine and Tanka would go to the use.
So since I myself, I'm not someone who has a profound practice deep in the mind, and I'm someone who has basically completed the accumulations of the numbers. So that's why I hope that that's what you will at least accomplish, at least accumulate the numbers. Of course, ideally, your practice will be very profound and authentic, and it become part of your mind. But at the very least, I hope that you will complete the numbers of accumulations.
Doro Timoso don't Minanga Tebrjan Hondonian Bala, Toma de Linguayas and Eden Sanji Kundi, Zavalama, Denirana, Tozeva Jimbe on the Josana de Sanji, Lamagino here, Alliance, and that Londo puzzle again, that's our Lamagino and not to get the young Ronan and Zavalama, Yang the Jetavalama Jena and as a rich Garanga, just Banzo, J. Dangan, Madame Sumjin and the J's or Rambojan Lama Jamutayo, Semji Bane, Daladam was a bit of Tabatunji, but the Jubas Toziman, what the Yabazim they did not. You don't know me by Antabas and Romajatabas, Tejita, somebody but the Gama here, but the didn't Masan gave all Koreas and Joda Senji, Tabotimon saying Royan, Tabatuni, Yama Yulama, Jena, Chuchus, and with the Yankovang, Panjo, Samba, Tala, Alabit Sindel, Bridget, but on the Nibagavasamba, and the Sine. Tarila Mizan Combo, the Yen Don John, down the Loni Bomba, Daging Madasa, the Ziba, the Zibanimo, Zamana, Corona, the Young in the London Joe. Tamjaya Tong Yoba Sava Sale Jinde La Samba Ne Tong Jolen De Tong Tong Nyamu Tong Magi Ba Ge Le Lam Be Ba Ji Ko Tong Sei Tong Ba Sa Ki Song Nga De Ju Yi Tong Yi La Ting Is Gom Mo Tumi Jeng Ru Yi La Dong Bo Kong Jo Sum Je Jo De Ba Se Ba La Jeng Dong Ro Ba Na Ji Ko Yin Be Song Yin Me Be Yi Ji Gi Je De Be Kong Jo Sum Na Ja Song Ne Pinyo Sang Jen Ma Ja Ba Ba Zen De Ba La Ja Song Na Song Jen Na Ka Rong Da Yan Nu De Jo Xie Na An Do De Be Ma Ka Bo Na Nga Ye Din Ba Da La Yi Ba Gi Ni Na Gi Jong Taraji Bade Dajan Karba Zambon Dinila Lama Bayan Sunyang and Dava Sumba Chapsu Suma La Gumba Inje Dene Nagata Danya Besim Kuba Donga Jadolo Jobasada Kunjo Suna Jason Ronya Besem Jeba Dan de la Tomara Jaja Sande Banan Soy Pala Giga Vesa Rinja Veda Dragon Chadana Madina Kaju Jojo Gondo Jondan Kuba Judega Yes, it is Sanjay Zembe Sanjay Don Jadin Jishara Basin Dojo Chujan and the Jazz Papa Kodak Tribon the Bata Zawa Jadeda Sarvando Dadan Types in Indonesian Design Mother Badalanga is a good Jazan Zambala Jamdon and among Jigas and Yadam to Jet Yamada Bada Jason J. His and Junan Jing Jam Rodan Jason Saran Darada Roana and Mojin was in the Chunan and was in Truba using Javas and Jala to the Hidden Yoda Virginia Soyan or Daland with using Jala Bazanada Tarjama Bangan La Jao Tonyba the Jujama Don and choose some more Tondo Brazil Pajayana Melon Lazunin Brazil Soto Bada divisions the Bala Yamdi Chapenda one of the Bayon but the three in the Jana the Dredgeta Cham the message of Tamayan de Land to the Jurabado Jas and Bagum de Empire to me the David Dictor Tamjeta, what do you say? But you get even the three in the Netherlands or the President of the Hungary Carbosa number soldiers. Jidene de la Hona de la Yaza, Renes and Joe, and another Bajas and the Gonama, Reconja Dalamato, Yazagundo, Gazalong, Jaya, Tonto Jetogan, Benadon, Gola, de Camisi, and Jaganon, the Saraba, the Antojas, and Baja, the Dancing Jamare, Dancing Baja, and Yeda Banze, the Zohi, Savada, Bedos, and Dogo, Sam, and the Jabal, Sajas, and Jonjo, Cochatam, Jana, Barangas, on the Yellow, Jan, Jay, Jan, the Balan Besa de Madrid Member so was the member and the Sagan Banga the Bama some Mayas are the Danimim on the Nanangagin among the Jim but then the Janja here so the bed of Jes and Bayan the Journey on the Gentleman was in a London Bijimi Baraja Barzana Lawyer Driver that was a new moment. Do the Johnson Johnson Jotos Dangana Yinja Mother Yala Dala Josen so some bus was by man number one and dollar is only the one with the only number is on the Yin Jagger from the Hindi in Sosa Dribata Baladi, he's also Sosa Bakaraje, Telazosa Badama, I mean number one and show him Bidula Sanji, and Hamdilla Tosu Hingamali Bundy by Chuna Sanji, he thought Jesus or Zombie Mentor, Bala Zomba Sao, Soyan Sunday Banango. Soya Basajin, you go to the Recon Chada, the Janji Bogadian, Soja, going to the Jump Colo Dombala, you take it another. Yes, it is Sanjay in Bejaga Sanjay on the name, the Gira Bazando, on a future and the Jazz and Gomalas and Papa, you know, when you go on Tago, the Dream on the Batas, on the Tata, no Jujanama Banjo, Danje Bambara, Salon, Yana Baba, against the Jan, Regulation, Balon, Long and you know, the other million of the Mama, with a lot of money was a Malaysian gun, but you took in the road and the Yenes in your lot, so he done again. Malay and the Balana the Nindro, the Jis on the Zadan, the non the body, the Ponga, and the Majet, the Zong body, the Gumbujan, the was in Janong, the Mentala, getting on it on the Zealand and Elomenda Japanese, the was in Janong, the Dragon, and the Matala, but the so sheeper, the Lion, Jederam Jatam, the dollar. What did you make of it? Dance it, Chamje Sanje Gombanjo, the Yoshi, Johnson, the Dalin, 라멘 초경을 자도서 이 정도도 연하나도 추산 추진 주 연만에 배동이시요 젤란데 베네로 동지면서 사진님 방안나 조선 양벌이야 고주 신제라 바스불라만 고만에 사진면에로도 탑디고 라마 산지면 대마 그저스나 주는 바른 용거든 도대동다 대바네 동남만 대베도 바사마이나 시다 줄에 강이 가바즈브가 라컴범 차kom범 라마게 체체비지는 지디 숨용 비샤네 라마고 이가는 먹이면 세나 주면 세메게 돌는 지좀 버세 남주고 나만 줄어도 바사원도 남고 밴드 낸데 점내고 잡을만 건데 쭈버드는 kumdong ngomboren ji ji sanye do do no do yo de ndar ka jo sin no che de ne ba ni mo chen kon to ba da ba sa ri hin chu ba ne pa de la ma ge ma zo da le ma ye no ye yang bo cha che be zun ju zan ran da da ro ni za do dong do za do ye na me ge do yo da ba so ban de ba ne no de ne de no ma lo do ni ka de san za me za jo la ma na la zo an de dang de lo ye dong de ni ni dang 세계상제도 버지게 조와 버즈전데 발라존 바잔타라 산제군데 자와나마나 세동조르베서도 거예네 여전히 여랑은 이누는 드겨름다 그냥들 라마란데 예메냐 바라야데 달라마도다 예메데데 메미나냐 바라야 제데베네가 데레 라마라이 시베중지 가제제 고산베란세 랑오시발라마야 남데 미드미좀 손데 자라게 라마스나마야 존데 예미라마남 조고나 된조지 지선바다 타르테모 타르테모 gelamaran lamada se dandara me bangande yebaza chebran josne yebagon bala majana gane mad kanda dega bala jubanda de yimbi lo jona konja sambu sanga den ji jode thomano giden jinja madera ni jede na bayo gone jede jan de samba da den ye semji yin namrange mazbene gal namza tinji jinzo yin so la zang den tarzin ji dam je de samba den den lo je mani ba je zo ni ba ni je gum ma je na ni na me ru ru de ge na ba na je da je ma na ye na ji bi ni ru jong wa ra yo je jo na na dang bo dong ma dang bo nyo ye be sim je ye me den de zhen ne de ni rang ge ma de ye so na jin je me zu be ye jing la de je de ni rang ge zo ngui me yan de ma se yo nge bar sam ba dan da dong ma de na be sim je dang je rang ge ma ma ze me be san de ra am je dong ma de dong je dan de dan du je ning ji jing bo je ban be do so ba san je sen ko ban 제가 당제 뭐 봐서니다 저가 당제 좀 봐서니다 뭔지 니라 란서지 제 바로 이제 뭐 다른 다른 거는 저다들 라자나 단중에 사와 다게는데 제가 타면에 동아종 치나 만나서 버도도 사절란진 조란조 바라제제 장망주된 인제선 주는 용화 동벌사 조란 탐제대 생제는 예빈바다 대회동 저에서 사람으로도 만나서 대들 소나 사도 차단대 란도에 조란 탐제 파생 주변으로 대들 세배 피요는 다이된 도포 모델라 산조선을 담바된 소남들 달려주면서 dāne jīktīn rōwā kōngyō dēwāne dāne jāwēn hāpa sēngjēn tamjēn jō dāne jīktīn kōngyō drabā sēpañi dāne jarwā tsō kōngyō wā tēsā mō shīsā rōmbā dā jē dēn sēmjēn kōngyō kōngyō lā jā sāngyō sēngjē rāngzō sāngjē hī sōmbā dā yō nā sāma jā wā wāng mē bā dā mē nā yīn jī tsō sō jā dā rā nyā sā nā jā sō nyē zāng bē sā nā dāne chē pā rā jā ngō rō sāngyō sēndā rā lā bā nyē bō yīn bē to ndo ju la jing bi che ma jong ba dan be do go mo de dan hu rong du je den za ba gi sun de da da dong nya ji ma bo la phe do yo na ta shi ba re gen de ba na ba de yo na ne den jan den ba ga ji de da ju zo re go ne jo zong wa de de mo se do ji ro na na phe do de je me na ro jan na so re se be mo ga ye ne jo ma so de 오게 오게 안돼 얘는 공조 좀 되는 거 하지 말아야 돼 사는 거 보고 산조 선조를 보지 마 집안은 집안에 뭐 공내 공동 포벌쇼 오케이 다 롱더티 참아 쉬운데 봐인스 도르스 디나 취시바데 문도 이나리 무지 이나리 조 이나리 돈다도도 가래 걸시나 랑게 샘게 주든도 탑이 딕바치 야마자 힌세야 담보 딕바키 쭈온다 로트도 파빵 게어 대차도 되는 게어 무슨 초벌지스 오늘 뭔가 예스 주고는 심지 예나 핀지 토세야 랑게 뇽모 파파야 예나 핀심지야 다 대답하게 되는 냠니세나 땅문에 산지게 주게 되는 예제가 참아되는 두용고요 너나랑게 핀셈 산주제셈 대야 공포치 랑긴 제유 참하는 삼다 제부고는 되니 파져야 고치죠. 어다 대인 종아인의 되니 주문의 채팅 차고 요스 차고 요스는 차고 요사리
Rinpoche, we lost Ina.
어
Sorry. Dort in lunga som tene champagne tene hitatu.
기안 무슨 소바지 티는 누구도서 내가 디바체 마자켄시 예세 너도 디바체 아마존 돼 쭉 녀모 뭐 파파야지 랑게세네 용도서 기안 무슨 소바지 세야 되겠다 삼바데 힘게 산초 센트 컴포르탄 테레노스
Yeah. So now we have received all the instructions and the transmission, and of the preliminary practices. And so, in brief, the essence is to, with body, speech, and mind, to benefit others and to abandon our afflictive emotions and so on as much as we can. So this is really the essence of practicing the Buddha Dharma. And the Buddha himself had said that do not commit any wrong, perfectly practice virtue, completely tame your own mind. So do not commit any wrong basically means give up your afflictive emotions, and then practice virtue is, and to purify your mind is to cultivate love and compassion, to increase your bodhicitta.
that's what lingo so yana.
Okay, so shall we start with the questions?
Okay, so I will post the questions as I read them in our group chat. The first question is, can we gain rebirth as human beings in other planets and universes? Is Dharma present in those places? Is this planet the last of the aeon with causes and conditions for Dharma practice?
Teni ti jikten di mayim ba jikten chemba pana sakada or chembala jikten chembala milur bochi givelen tuki tu es teni saka chemba rawa teni tela yang chun yamen sia yor chu yor res yang na une chun yamen sia gi tungen di jikten teni saka di kangla matok chemba yor marwe
that 저한테 야 본로지 고츠만데 제단 직진 힘바 요사를 와서 달아 동 말아서 동 담보 주후 직진 동 발마 동 섬스네 현데 드는 직진 시기도 되는 직진 현데 드는 아 되는 직진 힘바 다다나 이 요스 나서 나 직진 힘바 배나 달아 동 담보 전데 달아 나서 가장가서 면전하는 연구도 동 담보 주후 직진데 가래 힘바 디나나 페나 다랑안서 직진지 감로 유데 바페나 안 로아르도 페나 라네데 제바 창 용수 조바 대답 동차 찔르더니 동담부 주훈 직진 시기도 대답 단 너는 동차 망보 동숨는 시 용도 되는데 그는 가서 나이 전에 동힘발라 요사레스
So it's a good question. So that's what we mentioned the other time, that there is this billionfold universe, the third or the thousandfold universe, which, for example, in the context of the mandala, we mentioned that. So the first order thousandfold universe. So we take one world such as ours. We take our world and multiply it by 1,000, and then that's the first order, the first kind, and then so on. And so then there is there's second and third. And so in any case, what this also is to say is that just as our world, meaning that just as in our world, we have the 6 realms represented. For example, we have all of the God realms and so on. And so then just like that, so we take this one world with the human and then 1,000 times 1,000 more. Hours. You have the next question?
There's paru
Oh, sorry, I don't know what's going on. So we have, just like we mentioned, the mandala offering. So we have the third and the second and the third thousandfold universe. And so we said that our universe, our world is like one. And then we multiply our one world by 1,000. So that's the first order thousandfold universe. And then these 1,000 are multiplied by further 1,000 and so forth, meaning that there is billions of worlds just like ours. And so just like we have the God realms and the human realms and the 6 realms really in this world, there are billions of human or gods and 6 realms. The universe is just like this. Billions of these exist. So there's a third order thousandfold universe is just like this.
The Sanji Chilo Yusa they have Tongsong Tongchin, but then Sewa charge a mambo that in Sanji Trupu chicken the yen is here those stand the Sanji Chilo Yusa
The Tongsong chicken sama Sange chicken Prusar.
Chicken the yen is.
So, and then also in all of these other universes, there probably really is the Buddha Dharma too, in all those third or billionfold universes, those billion universes, because it is said that this third or billionfold universe that we are in now, this entire billionfold universe is actually the field of one Buddha to tame beings in one Buddha, for one Buddha.
Question?
Right, next question. Beings in hell realms have no body and feelings. Why do they still feel pain?
Teni nyakam ki semchen tensu supo yo marwa supo mena teni konsang chorwa yo mare teni kuranso supo ran chorwa mena teni kuranso di donor ge chorwa kanesa lepke yore.
Kotol Zubo
How do you know they have no body?
Koranzo Zubo yore. Koranzo Zubo the Karesina. Koranzo Trudu, Dordina. Trudu the Koranzo Tara. Yiji Lu, say yore, Yiji. Tara Koranzo Lutin Kare, Lu Zok Kare, Yona Tinagi. Lute Tinagi Koranzo Yu Sanquer. Tanga Yewan and a Chieson, Tase song, Tubson, son Chundugoro. The Koranzo Chunde Koranzo Mus Yundugore. Mus Chazo Zubo Yopana, you don't have your
So they do have sort of a body, because the body that they perceive because they're confused. So it is a mental body, but it's just like now, actually. Now we also think I have this body. And so just like they think we have our body, they think they have their body. And they have this perception of I'm born in hell, I'm in hell, and they're killing me, and they're cutting me and so forth. So they're confused by these perceptions, but it's an actual experience for them. So just like we experience our body as being actually there, they also experience their body as being there.
Okay, next question. It is also said that to be reborn in the gods and demigods realms, one had to have achieved shamatha in a human life or remain in the form and formless realm during samadhi, such as the yogis of India with wrong views and jealousy. Is that correct?
Dini layul dang lama ingi yura layul dang lama ingi yul de la ke kona tambo shine da thoko yo shine thoko yo re pena tananga mirwa dini milu kapla teni nga shine thop teni tela tene yana nga lama ingi ke valen teni yana hla dang lama ingi ke valen ade Jana die sukam dang sume kam gish dinge tin näher kan la kure dort na tirwa hla dang lama ingi ne su ke la ni yore samgi yora chikti milirum bache kapla shine komye nipa tim sukam jana sume kamla dinge tin komye pena nguma gyaka ki namjoba yorwa konsutis lokda chen pena yorwa teni konsu da chado chen lokda chen enzo yene koso dinge chin komge yorwa teni tenso yang pena ladang lama ingi ne gi yor de dinge chin tela tene tene reves ti kowa di tempa reves tene morge dos
Kwati chana kwati so tsamre. Chotang ngaransu ti khatang ti lemdegi nana yawasi. Lemdegi nani maa xie endu gewalela dewa tang, magewalela dungar se yung wadwa. Tani mayo wale xie endu pe na nga gitara tingenzi la sobata tingenzi something gom yung rwa. Something gom, shane gom tandi si endu tani pe na zukham lu tobu do zukham che do as zukham che ni zukham che sa de ni tado monto ne teng aga something gom tene te sing de ni something gom pal tene tene ka ya gong dum phurgo gong ya phurgo da something gong ya phur ne tene zukham ne ri chu ne ya ram pha yin pha go da pha ne tene something de ya jin draw ke tene da zungmi kewa ling kar zungmi kham che tene zungmi khane ya rampa gin tene zungmi kimchi ma yena ne che endu tene ti ina ro tu yo mata shane ta samti kon ti ina ro mar endu kare chen ro mar sina ti khona to dami to patawa lamdong ki tawa de ma to ti ina ro mar lamdong de ma to sa tini ko so man khor yo da oh ta te ta
disko sumela doto kumara khaba doto kumare
zungmi de ro tu yo samti rampa gin de ya go samti kon pan tene zungmi kimchi ma yela rampa ki ta ro zungmi kimchi
di drama topa
yan ro chandu ti ina ro tu ma ta sam tara shene ta something gomna kare jene ham thong tawa yo mare mi to tawa dami to patne ham thong tawa mi chadu ti ina ro mare ne tini mang khor yo go ni ma jong khor
khonala
mang khor le thar yo mare se ti tini yo ta shene tele te tene tini dami ki tawa to na tini ta tini thar lo ta te ma to tini shene de ti chung ro go man te la ta shene de suk gom na re soro yena re namba yena re shene ke thosan re ta te rang
so you have like can have a partially correctness understanding, but so that goes back to the other day's teachings when we talked about karma, cause and effect. So we have said that virtuous actions lead to happiness and non-virtuous actions lead to suffering. And then there's the virtuous karma and the non-virtuous karma. And then we also spoke about the unmoving karma. And that refers to the practices of samadhi and meditative concentration, like shamatha, calm abiding, and so on. So as a result of these unmoving karmas, one takes birth in the form realms. And then one continues on in one's meditative state of concentration. It increases. And so as it increases, one progresses through the 17 abodes of the form realm. And then it further increases. And then one finally takes birth in the formless realm. And then one progresses through the 4 abodes of the formless realm. But then there's a limit to that, because if one's practice is limited to shamatha, to meditative concentration or absorption, and if it lacks the insight of vipassana, then one will not realize selflessness. And it is because one lacks vipassana, the insight, that one again falls back into samsara and one again wanders in samsara. So that's the reason why one doesn't become liberated from samsara. So when one practices only shamatha, only based on shamatha, one does not realize selflessness, and therefore one does not become liberated. And so it doesn't actually matter whether one is a Buddhist or a non-Buddhist practitioner, whoever as kind of develops a state of calm abiding, of shamatha, that they will attain exactly the same result.
Next question. Are all of these, both physical states and mental states, always correlated? Are all beings momentarily experiencing in their minds all these multiple states throughout their existences, regardless of physical manifestation?
Also, then chutang lugi nangwa, then lugi nangwa tamanda yosara, then lugi ba nyongchuron, lugi nangwa, then semgi nangwa yorava, ludosam nangwa ni yore, then tapa drava yorves, then this one. Are they momentarily experiencing in their minds all these what are all the multiple states? What's multiple states? Like mental states or different kind of mental states, or what? Then yeah, machine that she has sebo mendok. Then that's also been a mitzagin ringla mitzachiki ringla. Then sem ginangla bena michiki sem ginangla mitzakangala. Then kanna kore da lugi nangba khara ina yang teni damin da nangi yor ves khara nang yor mishi so sure.
Yes.
I'm not so sure if I understand the question, to be honest with you.
Me too.
So are the beings momentarily experiencing in their mind what are all these multiple states throughout their existence? This is the part I'm not really understanding. So like the second part, do you have
I don't understand this question either.
So maybe let's go to the first part of the question then more, or do you think it's okay?
Right, sure. Or
Yeah.
if the person who asked this question, if you're in this session, you can further clarify yourself, or otherwise we would just proceed with the first question, the first part. Thank you.
Pacheta morang ko samare ine that dinala jibani yorwa tini thangbo tela tortena tera tini mitsechi ke nala tini lu kin nangwa tamenda yorwa lu kin nangwa tini sem kin nangwa tamenda yorwa pe nampa la sopa then so takpa derba yorwes
Pache lugun chowa yinsa lugun chowa chowa dewan chowa dong na wa sechi wa lu sengu dene ta sengu chi nam tong ramla yorwa Then Java Yorevela, we sarva. Rivet and
Didn't
Rindo.
like this, sorry.
Really, Conan,
Got it.
Luta send me chick in there. Maraconi chick maris, Coney chick in there. Tin de duty, Coney and Javate Yores, Ante. Coney Chiba rivers in the Chiba Maricon Cardi. Penang answer, Luncho, you won't send it to you, Mata. Lucian Dogala send to Manes, Jigo Manes. Call Luty, show you Lucian Kabla, same conrosion. The ina ya tara khona chik chik tin de yores tin de ba cham jin de ba yore
So the body, the physical states, the bodily manifestations and one's mental states are correlated. So we experience different feelings, physical or mentally, of happiness, suffering, or different thoughts in the mind. And so then the question really is, are they one or not? So they are not one. So they rely, they depend on each other. They are intercorrelated, they're interconnected for the time being, but they are not one. So there's the body and the mind, meaning that when the body dies, when the body perishes, the mind does not perish. The mind then goes on. So just for now, the body and the mind are correlated.
Next question. When we take refuge in the three jewels, we should also have the altruistic motivation of becoming to be able to liberate other beings and not only to liberate ourselves from samsara, right?
Teni kunju sumla ngaso gyapso tona, teni ngaso kunlong di shembengi kunlong angke ko yore, teni bena nana gyapso toya ki miul di ngachikpo kovala toya maimpa teni semchen tamche korva tona toya ki chetonga gyapso togo yin shembengi kunlong, teni ke ko tuasta nga tinderevas.
ten rang re mara so ta gewa kredem na chamro don ba yin re gewa khande chi de ba yin na simkin thamjin kho dong hala drago sambate ni gores
Yes, exactly. That's exactly the motivation to have. No matter what virtue you practice, whether you take refuge in the rituals or whatever, or take the refuge vow or whatever virtue you practice, whatever you do, you should think doing this to liberate all sentient beings from the suffering of samsara.
Next question. Can I utilize 15 to 30 minutes time during break time to do prostration? Is it a must to read the text from the beginning till the prostration part all over again? Or can I start right away from the prostration sentence and do prostration?
But is this in here? Was you cut off? So what if? Sorry, can you repeat the question, Shu? I can't see the question here.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I see it. Now I see it. Okay. Yep. Now I see it. So, the name. Teni chak tsebe kapla teni karma chunga sumcho teni main sona tiki rive teni teni pacha teni lau kusare teni yangkia go songdu pena nga main sotsa tu riva teni yangkia teni topta gone yangkia tsama chatsang yangkia tuengo rive pena nga chak tsena teni chak tse parto chatsang di parto yangkia tuengo rive yana nga tsam shoksa tela rang yang go sona chogo rive.
담보 지난 잠도 초긴 잠도 생기듯 찹상으로 초긴 삼데 드니 지난 산치 드니 지난 발생 데스 발생면서 시고나 드니 지난 문로 말말 방화 뒤뒤지체 드니 지난 발생 karma 추수 같이 지고는 대 제서데 드니 양조야 톤존도 드니 지난 찹상 마선은 되게도 갑토 산치인데 지난 담보 초긴데 생각이 이 사지 딱 돈파 돈 마고 왔지 이게 때문에 초연 산데지 근데 갑도 산세견 되거든.
So So you begin with the when you recite the sadhana and you visualize the refuge tree, and you cultivate, you recite the refuge and the motivation and so on, and then you come to the prostration, and you do your prostrations. And if you want to take a break, a rest, then before you stop, you do a very, very brief dedication. Then you rest for however many minutes. And then when you come back to your practice, it's okay not to recite the whole sadhana. So you can come back directly to the prostrations. Just again in your mind, you should bring back up the visualization of the refuge tree. So you just bring up the visualization, and then it's okay to go right into the prostration again without doing like all the recitations again.
How would it be with prostrations? Are those full or short prostrations?
Dini chak sardu dini the chakyang sargo reve yana satega tana chogore.
Tata chirang lo chung chung yi zubbo na natsa me na sa jang sa tsar per postation. Ta gengo chimbo yin tini zubbo deo me na tini gasa chinang digi yu jiri. Yena ya lama koma si chikite gasa chinang digi ri sungu mando. Digi mariya sungu mando, digi riya sungu mando. Ko sa jang sa tin sini madon digi riwe sin tini shiniya yo mara. Yena ya ta zubbo detang me na gangi shivi chadi yo na tini ngondro yondo lo chimbo yo na tini gasa chinang digi ri sangkundo osi.
So it depends. If you're young, and if you're not sick, if you're physically able, then you should do the full prostration. If you are older, or if you're physically, your health is not so good, then it's probably okay not to do full, and you can do half prostration. But then the past lamas, the gurus, they didn't really speak on that. They didn't say it's okay to do half prostrations and so on. Basically, they said you have to do full prostrations, but also at that time, there was nobody asking, can we do half prostrations? So the general instructions is that you should do full prostration, but that is so if you are able to do it. If you're like young, or if you're physically able to do it, then you should do it. But if you're not in good health, or if you're older, then it's also fine to do half prostrations.
Is it okay to visualize Brajasattva as crystal or transparent instead of snow white in color?
Dini dorsim komdu, dini pena shi nangshin riba, sina meba da wo shi nangshin komna chogo riba, yana yinji minchi karpo gongo riba, karpo ke sabla, shi nangshin komna chogo riba.
Kita ko drip thap na kare ladan ke gor was drip thap na khado karwo labdo was dorje simba gom de karwo tini karel nima phopa na yigo labdo tini ma dutsu tela te se hi ta cha zungur chukendo rawo chi ina de re karwo ina de ina chana ke moris. I think I give you answer there, you know. Its visualization is need why. Example is sadhana, what sadhana says, why? Then follow that, you know. The example always we Vajrasattva visualization look like snow mountain, then touch sun, become more bright, more white, right? Look like example that, you know. But nectar, right? Vajrasattva is coming nectar. This little bit is glass color or white color is okay. Need lots of it. Oh yeah.
All right. It's like, yeah. Okay, next question.
Right. So Ina Rinpoche has already answered in
Yeah.
English, right? So we'll go to the next question.
Mhm.
Yeah, na yin hin cha lap tu ma da ya.
Ngondro. Karin nga. Sentang.
So the next question, when we practice the mandala offering, are we looking at the directions, north, east, and so forth from our side, or is the mandala looking at us? The refuge tree facing us, for instance.
Tening mental pubekapla. Tening ansom pena chok shi yorava pena sang no plus or pashar no bra yorava. Tini ti ngarancho gingone pena samgi yorave yana mental gingone. Tini pena mental ngarancho kata yor yana ngarancho mental tatso tagari yana ngarancho pan tagari. Tini tin nangshin choshing di pena ngarancho la chot abo tagari yorave tinda yorave ta chok disam sabo meba inzarava chok handa dawar.
Da ha ko. Cho yin nga cho undong le yo ro was. Da men da de nga rang ge pa pu yo ro was. Men da pa pu yo ro was. Den du men da de sha lo zong dang de pa de ne zong. Pa undong won de. Nga rang za de ma yin ba ji pa zui shu yo de. Sha de le zong.
Yeah, so you can see, so first you visualize that the refuge tree is in front of you, facing you, and then the mandala you offer toward the refuge tree. And so here you can see Rinpoche is pointing the finger, right? So this part which is pointing away from you toward the refuge tree, that's the eastern direction. So the east, not toward you, but the east away from you.
De sha ri, de lo ri, de ne ri, de sang ri.
So you saw this was in front, this is east, east and was south, then west, and then north, yeah.
Da men da de ko pu dang den de ri. De che shi da yo ma ri, da de yan ni chen bo yo ma ri sa.
So generally, this is how we offer the mandala, but also like kind of in the larger in the picture, it doesn't make a big difference actually.
참자 가란서 때 라마랑 가게 면다 짜거든 대뒤 샤데 양 가란 짜데 좀 아니 뭐
But then, so sometimes when we offer a mandala to a lama, when we hold the mandala, then actually at that time the east is here, so it faces you.
동다 가르친 체바시라요 말이야.
Okay, next question.
But the point is, it doesn't really make a difference.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Next question. What is the significance of doing a mudra by some, while others offer mandala during a retreat? Is there any visualization to be done when doing the mudra?
Tini chitang sakya se ti penang so that sometimes also some day begabla ram tini kashe koran so mendro phugi yore tini kashe koran so sakya din se gi yore ba sakya lakpa sakya tini tini sakya ti gabe gabla tini mikpa khare kom gore.
사자신 드르르베 그 면다 사자인데 드르르 제르베.
Do you mean this mudra for the mandala offering? I think so, right? Pache dinding kire.
다때 저당 가게 면다 그 장사 용의 qabla 되게 누가 먼저 왔어. 인지 민지 때는 싸고 잠깐 면다 코란 때는. 단 참상 안 하고 저도 그로 눈파 면다 단 눈파 초간 동데 면다 두둔도 오지 만 동야 여러 근데 완성 때 지고는 되게 되게 제가 되게 데 사자신 되게 그래서
So when you do your mandala offering, then you cannot do the mandala mudra, this one, because you're holding the mandala base and you have to make the offering on to the base. But then when you're not actually doing the accumulation, when you're doing a normal mandala offering recitation, then you are making this mudra while you're reciting the mandala.
dan din zugu de se in tel kare yore sena cho nga yore cho nga de karen so bu sena u ro chora da tene shallo no zan so ye shallo no san ye ti gen song re penna din zugu tin ya chi tin ya lang de do de dara u ji ro chora chi tene de sha so chi de lo so chi ni u da shallo tene no de sang tene cha donda de ya pyu yu se da rab da leng ge chama ya pyu yu se donda de mi ba so sa yu re mi
So this is the mandala mudra. So it possesses of 5 parts. So you can see the central part here. The 2 fingers are raised. The 2 raised fingers in the center, they represent Mount Meru. And then the 4 fingers surrounding, so the front finger, you see, that is the eastern direction, the eastern continent. And then you have the southern continent here on the other side, this finger. And then toward you is the western continent. And then on this side, the finger, the thumb, that's the northern continent. So when you're making this mudra, it's like it's a support for your visualization of thinking that you're offering the whole universe consisting of the Mount Meru and the 4 continents.
Do we need any condition to practice the mandala offering? For example, do we need to complete prostration and Vajrasattva first?
Tini mentor di sakona, tini tracking kare tsangore, spena tambo dorsem di shat sagore mentor pugona, sakona.
dotang sigi ona ambo sa den sa dini dorsem sa dini mendar sa koron pa yin lu go res nguma nga so nyamne se de ga rang da chiran so tu shi da mi yan sa du dini chapsang sa go no pen sa go lo ma bong go ro ya ka ki mendar sa ndu yo ro ba den du dini 담보 다 카케를 되니 사사 다 카케를 도셈사 다 카케를 맨다서 찹창 맞아봐 있나 된레지 리코는 그래.
So traditionally, this is how it is done. So first, you would complete the refuge prostrations. And then once you're done, you would complete the Vajrasattva accumulations. And then once you're done with that, you will complete the mandala and so on. So that's how we did it. We went step by step in this way. But because you don't have so much time, if you would just try to complete the prostration refuge part, maybe it would take you several years. And then there are some people who really want to offer the mandala. And so how you can also do it is that you can spend a few months on refuge prostration and then a few months Vajrasattva accumulation, then a few months mandala and so on. So in this way, you can basically practice them taking turns.
How many mandalas do we need to perform for mandala practice actually? In the beginning, I saw Rinpoche offering a mandala to the shrine. Then Rinpoche said that we need to offer the 37 mandala on the shrine. And we use another mandala set for accumulation. Is it 3 in total?
Tate phajang ya kos. Tara chita menrar tela tani dripa menrar and chupa menrar is ni yong ta pena dripa menrar ro ina tani ta nga so tambo chomba ngang gu do chomba ngang gu ni te dan do de chamro choyen kabli dara pasang shen zab dongbo chile yaga nga te ten de ni nga ge dara choyen sam de biwa pe ti tabsin dara dripa menrar de ni te tab dara chomba nga ko ndi te ti pasang yaga dongbo na yin te tab de ni san de This and then Tinity Tinatini, singing Chata Pema the Dava, last of the dance in it, Chila, Tane Lama Dorjan Chanta Juba Lama, doing the Yadam yes at tennis, Hanji Jab the Tampe you want the Tini. Gain those the Toyans on the water, Toyans on the side. They made a chick. Menda Nipa Tela drip in Chupa Mendas Tang as a Namju te poor, poor in the Tini, Sombukusa. Go and Nagi Chunete. Telatin chupa mendas ti menda ni yon ndigar.
Tela sumchu subdu ras chupa mender.
Tatelan chupa menda tela sumchu sobdo sepatang chombus dumba sepat ni tinana yogodwa.
So we actually have two mandalas. So we have the practice mandala or accomplishment mandala, and then the offering mandala. And so the practice mandala or accomplishment mandala is the one that we visualize as the refuge tree. So we hold that in our hand, and we place 5 heaps on it, and so we visualize it as this wish fulfilling tree that has 5 parts to it. So there's the central trunk, and then there's the branches around. So there's 5 parts. And so first we visualize this tree, this 5-section tree, and on that we visualize the lion throne with the seat of lotus and sun, and on top of that sits the root guru in the form of Vajradhara, surrounded by all the lineage gurus. And then there is the not to the right side, there is the Buddhas of the 1,000 Buddhas of the Aeon, of this Aeon, and on the left side is the Sangha, and then behind are the Dharma scriptures and so on. So basically you visualize the whole refuge tree. You visualize this accomplishment or practice mandala that you're holding as the refuge tree. So that's the one, like as accomplishment that you place in front of you, and then that becomes your refuge tree. And then you have the offering mandala, which is the one you use for your offerings. And so that is the one that where you place, you keep placing the heap. So that can either be 37-fold or 7-fold. So both of these are practiced with the offering mandala.
Ta chiran zu tendre ji ta yong na menda sum go yu bu zon de ji yo re sa. Ti yin na yang menda ki kan de ri sum kan de ri ni kan de ri. Kare yo na de ri sa.
Yeah, so from this perspective, it may seem that we have 3 mandalas. So it's okay to see it that way. It's also okay to see it as 1 or to see it as 2. Either way, it's fine.
Penna menda ta drip menda de yin na chombu ngang go ne tini nga ga ya chung kho gi ji de yo ne. Tini de len chu pa pu go ra ya tan do na nga gi choyen sam de sa re was. Ta chiran la menda chik mi mi na tini dunje nam kha ta choyen la so ba tu san de gu cho go re. Yin ji menda mi na de go re. Yi nga gi yi mi kwa so ne de ne jin san dem ro was.
So for the accomplishment mandala, that's the one that you visualize as the refuge tree. So you place those 5. You visualize those 5 parts of like this wish fulfilling tree on that mandala, and then it becomes your mandala that you place in front, which is your support of visualizing the refuge tree. So that's what you make your offerings to. But if you only have 1 mandala base, then you can just visualize the refuge tree in front of you. So then it basically is just like you mentally bring up the refuge tree, and then you use your 1 mandala for the offerings.
Is mandala offering always done with all the rings, or is it only used, or for accumulation, is it done only with the base?
The mender sape kabla yoraba phuva tapa san logo yoraba ti kapla teni rimba tam tina mambo yoraba tenzo rimba tenzo gogi to es yana the kind of ten yoraba macha ti chipo gore.
Kari rinpa.
The answer Shikshogo Yoraba, the day Mambolok, the Rimba Niba lok, the young day lok, the young Rimba Sumba, so Chembota would take Dogo Yoraba.
Param de la bro.
Parim, Parim Derim.
Somba simchu sobden go on the param de rampag in the rogo, they you're in the Pakorang and digging logos. Tenite simchu sobden seen, tenite ya Nagatana Mara. Duna Chupa Yuna Chupakal Menda Tadon Menda Yuna Chantin Chupakala Yasham Yan Chupal Pure te ya pure some sobdent. Mina te Tegarana Madzam Vichor Madzam Tenite at the Sombudumba and Timenda Tirana Guchos.
Tambosum to subdue the Parim in the chick, then it's at the name Shik.
Sobdon say at the Coparum Tinan and over.
Then Parim Shogo Marava.
Param do that a param unit dig or simply something saying the param churana yuna, menda you deuna, then a param draw on the simply sobdon city param the digs at the Krancha.
In and Tripa Putu, then Rimbash in the Shokumara, Parim Denso.
The Tambo
Young Sakura, Saya Gabla.
Saya Kalum Goma, Saya Kuluko seen it. Saya Kulu Tombo Yuma param lachigoma.
So if you offer so let's say you have two mandalas, and so you're placing one in front of you as the offering mandala. So then if you would offer a 37-fold mandala, and if you offer a 37-fold mandala, then you have to place those rings on it step by step. And then you place it in front, and then that's where you make your offering to. But then if you don't have that, so basically the mandala that you're holding in your hands for your accumulations, this is not where you put the rings on, because for the accumulation, we only do the 7-fold mandala.
Is it compulsory to do 100,000 mandala offering? Can we do other activities to accumulate merits instead?
Tenis sunam sakona yinchi minchik mendra bum chi sogo reves yanang ansa sunam saya tini ta Geva Damanda Shemba Damanda to the Chogre. Take it tapla.
Ngondro Yamis in the Chetan Tangat and Rogue Chiri. The Yena Yako gave us one amsa say at the loco. Kari Yena Sacho, look at Gavangaji, Yiji gave a Mendra Yenari, Mendra Minari, Karina Sacho.
Yena Yang Mendra Kochogre, mental sa songs of a lap together. Mendro.
It's also nothing
as in Sunam Bisara.
Don't in a chance one with so Zosona. Simply Nelo Tong to buy in, got a Mendas and a sauce on the Tonda, simply Nelo talk or Nelo talk. The nature and so yin, but Lunga gave your Jachimbo in the Sawa Jachimbo drum the Chiran simply Nelo Tonto Somayana, take Mendaco to the door.
So not strictly speaking, when you practice the preliminaries, the Ngondro, then we do need to accumulate the numbers of accumulations, but also, of course, you can accumulate merit in many different other ways with body, speech, and mind. There's many different virtuous things you can do to accumulate merit. And so basically, if your merit becomes completely perfected so that you see the nature of the mind, so that's the result of mandala offering actually. So the reason why we offer the mandala is so that we perfect the accumulation of merit so that we can see the nature of the mind. So if your merit of like whatever other merit you do is so vast and so strong that you do see the nature of the mind, then that is then basically the practice of the like the mandala offering. How many more questions do we have?
We have 11 more questions.
Okay,
quickly, then answer quickly.
If we practice mandala offering with rice, do we need to wash it with water the night before? How often do we need to change the rice? What should we do with the rice after mandala offering? Can we give them away for people who need it?
Tene te nyama chile piju tana chogudu, tunrela piju tana tene yang zangma yinba chirang sarpa yana chogudu. Dola chirang te pamjodu tune tene piju tiga na yi tang chogudu. Te chirang mendra pisa tene re te tene te pa simchin tunro la sopa la tene pa yinba tana digados.
So it is necessary to clean the grains, the rice first. So you have to wash it in water before you use it. And then how often you change the rice is also up to you. So you can use, let's say, half a kilogram of rice, like each day or each session. And then however often you want to change it, you can change it and then replace it with a new batch. So it also depends on how much you can afford. And once you've used it, then for your offering, then it's fine to give it to someone, like an animal, for example, to eat.
Okay, when we visualize the Guru in front of us, should we see his actual form or only as the Buddha himself? Can we also see the Guru on a lotus in our heart?
Nganso tun la nganso lama komtum deni nganso lama khong suk muso ti komna komgo reves komna chogo reves yana nganso yinjumi sangye komgo reves sangye ki namba komgo reves deni yana tun la makom deni tabe la matia pena sosuninka kan la peme kan la yorwa tela yang komcho ninka nang la komcho reves sosuninka na
Tate manda wa mambo dowas. Pena lam namjondo je gom na ko dojin changa nambasi rang tsaba lama yipa. Pena taranga ngondro yon de chogin san dem de tene dojin changa nambasi rang tsaba lama yipa gongko dowa. Tene ta yinji minji soso dojin changa namba mayin bari ji mataba che soso namju nga ge ta dojin chogin gom de tiga na ji gor. Chogin la so bata lama namju gom tere se. Tene yadam ga la yimba gom de pena chinre zeng do duma gom na namba di chinre ze duma ngo te tsabla ma yimba tende san de go do as gong do as tene ta namju jumba nga lama ta sem da manda ba sen de chinga gin do na nga ga tsabla ma yu sam de go yu ta yana pa san ro tende si de rang thak ta ye pa la yu ndo tende si de chu chu la yu sam gom do ya te ta so so ga tsabla ma namju kan je yu na ti na gi cha se chen na de yo res tene ninka la gom se ya te chitang nga ge chazo go lo ni ko tende se ni ninka la gom se ya chi yung go do tene zo ndo tene rang ge tin shi ta man ra we na tene tsabla ma ngo de rang ge tin shi de yin se ya den zhe yo go yo res
So it's practiced in different ways depending on the practice that you do. So in the context of the Guru Yoga practice and also the Ngondro refuge tree visualization, here you visualize the appearance of Vajradhara, but the essence, the nature of the root Guru. And then, for example, if you practice a Yidam deity like Chinrezig or Tara, then you visualize the form of that Yidam having the essence, the nature of the root Guru. But so basically, the mind has to be inseparable from the mind of the Guru, and so that's why we visualize the Guru at different places. So sometimes we visualize the Guru in front of us, or no, we're kind of behind, so to the right side, behind the right shoulder of the Guru, or when we like sit and we stay, then we visualize, so that's when we go around, and when we stay, then we visualize the Guru at the crown, or sometimes it is that when we go to sleep, we visualize the Guru at the heart. But also the essence of that is that we never separate our mind from the Guru. We never separate from mindfulness, recognizing that mindfulness, our own mindfulness, is in essence the Guru, the root Guru.
Can the practices that we are doing help us to increase our love?
Tanang so nyamlen tensolo tena teni cewa kia la pengitu
re tsewa jel dan do tin ko nyamnin ko tsewa ji ya chi de ji go ro was te tsewa jel ping go tsewa ma ji go de ji ya ne be go ro nyamnin ko tsewa ji chi de ri sa tsewa se de sin ji tum ji
So yes, because the practice increases love because the practice is to cultivate love. That's the practice. And so therefore, if the practice is to cultivate love, then definitely the practice helps to increase your love because that's the practice. But then, so before real love has arisen, we have to make an effort. We have to really cultivate it. And then the love is a love that is for all sentient beings.
So what about the mothers that abandon their children or even kill them? How can an abandoned child develop love towards his or her mother?
Tini amma kashe pugo ti kieta di Ngondro yora ba. Tini pena nga amma di nguma yu sonara. Tini amma la cheba khandai ki gores.
amma la tsewa ji go kar sin ame yu ya na nga sho mun do was ma shol te ama ki yu lo yu tan ji de yu yor ro ama te ma yu ran yu kang yin mong bo te yu yu ji res ngune cha yu ya na ama cha ta ra so yo ma res then the la pa de tsewa ji go la ama kang yin mong bo the nga yu ya re sam ning ji ji yu ya de hung ji le ge de yu yor
So why you should cultivate love is because even though maybe she abandoned you, you didn't die. You're still alive. So so that's a way of abandoning. She abandoned you in such a way that you didn't die, that you're still alive. If she would have really like just cold-heartedly abandoned you, like given you up, then you wouldn't even be alive. But maybe the reason why you were abandoned is because your mother maybe had some difficulties, certain reasons, and that's why she had to abandon you. So also that should cause you to cultivate compassion for her. And then also the other thing is that the fact that you're abandoned also is due to past karma.
Sometimes I am aware of the negative thoughts arising in my mind, for example, anger, desire, and so forth, but I can't overcome it. What should I do?
ta chiran tin pe
Namtong ngimba suki. Yeah.
chiran nambo ni pa ji ha ko ya te pe ya bo cho ta mo mang bo te ha ko ma ta nambo ni pa ji te ha ko chiran tin be chor si njwa ta ha ta ya so pe chiran te tin shi ya bo yu ta te chi chiran njwa ta ma na ya tin ka le njwa ta thu re chiran be chor ji go re sa.
So just the fact that you actually can see that you have negative thoughts is really actually excellent, because many people don't even see that. So you can see that fault, and that's why you can also make an effort in changing it. And it's important that you, actually it's a sign that you do have mindfulness, some awareness, because you can see it. And so then even if you're unable to let it go right away, with this kind of awareness, you slowly will be able to change.
Is the mind wishing for someone to be happy a way to cultivate compassion?
Teni ti mite deva yongwa shows ra ti menlam ti ningshe da bo ye ki tapshirwe.
Te nga ge ta samba yo ka sem ji tam ji dewa din par kyo samba yin ba te ni te me chik la mix ka so wa yin na te ya te se sem ji tam je la pha me gol sem ji tam ji dewa din par kyo ya nga gen do ni me mas dung han the de ba ten thong yo wa yin na te ya dewa din par kyo sam nan de gol do de na te samba ji ta bre ya te kon pon te ni sa cho sem se ya te ni ron pha gin de le me ko te na.
So that is called love. The wish for others to be happy is love. But the love should not be just for one person, but for all sentient beings. Or when you see somebody who's suffering, then you wish that they do not suffer, that they're happy. So you want them to be happy. So this wish for happiness is love. And then you keep increasing that, and slowly it becomes bodhicitta.
If I only practice Ngondro and recite the Mani mantra, can I get out of samsara?
Yinda yin chiran pe samba sancho simji tsi simba tini chiran gewa kare saba yina gewa saana tini te koni kondo persona yina tini Ngondro yina ri yinba nga nyamni kare jeba yina yi te chikba ri nga te khowal thap thap yore sam sancho sen namba niji koni tsi simba koni tini gewa jeba yina.
Yes, of course, actually, because whatever you do, whatever virtue you practice with bodhicitta, as it increases, that becomes the cause of being liberated from samsara. So it can be in relation to the preliminary practices or any other practice. It's the same if you cultivate bodhicitta. It becomes the cause of being liberated from samsara. So basically, you should practice any virtue with the twofold bodhicitta.
All right, the last three questions. I feel that feeling of compassion towards myself is not as easy as towards others. Should I also feel compassion towards myself?
Tini di soso la ngarang la ninja ke dis kale kapo yoris Shane la ninja ke kuna dis le lavo yoris tini ngarang la ninja kom goris it's
Tape yang u rindo siya kare sena ngana so nga la za chimbo tsundu ya te tang khowal khondo ya ge chandu gore yin la ningi chi ya te tape chozo gole de ningi ya poris nga yin la ningi kache chi na te ngune go nga la ping yore te nga la ningi yu ta nga la ningi chi go nga ya pori go sandu ne te ngune go nga la nu ko yore ba yin la ping go samba te ge teni ranga ya te ping yore mexican nga la chi go do nga sam ya te go mo do sa.
So actually, it's excellent that it's easier for you to cultivate compassion for others, because not this thought of I want to have compassion for me. This I, considering the I as so precious, that's really the cause of samsara. So it's much better to have compassion for greater compassion for others. And actually, the more compassion you have for others, the more you're actually benefiting yourself just naturally. And so on the other hand, if you feel that I should have compassion for myself, so that's actually is a further cause of samsara. So instead of just thinking about, there's no need to think about I need compassion for myself. Actually, if you just wish the best for others and you have compassion for others, then just naturally, actually, you are bringing about your own benefit. There's no need to especially think about your own self, your own compassion.
Yang 참자 인데 지금 가케케 오 당가랑게 나랑 롱랑 그러와 나랑 마치 베치기도 하시 가시든 지금 그래서 nga pen 탕만도 뭐 인바 약고지 내 기투금도 그러와 nga 내가 약고를 레트금도 라금도 nga 남바 약고문도 그러와 nga 빼 탕만도 상가랑 롱랑이 지금 때때 잡든 놓치 침벌 근데 자완이 지야요 말이지.
So, but sometimes some people say that they have some kind of self-hatred. They hate themselves and they are unhappy with themselves. And for example, they feel that I'm not able to do anything. I can't do things like the way other people do things, and I'm not very good at this job or whatever I'm doing, or I don't look very good, I'm not very good looking, and so on. So people develop a lot of self-hatred and they don't like themselves. That is not okay. That's actually a big mistake.
Penangal mayimba gahumondo sam so tape chozogolo ngage te no chimbo tamjo jumelu se tsaanya ringthang chimbo im hamao le jumde so hamao tini tinde sam no tangyo te sam no de non chori tinde mayimba che ngone nga pe lim de pe ringthang chimbo im sam ro di tene nge tambi chu jogo sam ngal kingi parche kare ngal 가랭 알 노세 좋아이나 대참 담배 주드변 tun진치네 봐. 오 랭이 바사는 들 좋아래. 당에 랭이 바사게 맨삼. 레잠보사 리틴더 빼짜친 보이. 디트는 게 자세 진저와치 따는 가 야진도에 치고 사야 들었습니다.
So sometimes also people think that, oh, other people don't like me and so on. So this kind of thinking is a big mistake. Because if you think that way, then you don't really value your precious human life, and you also don't really understand karma. So this is a mistaken way of thinking. You should still value your precious human body and think that with this precious body, I have to practice the holy Dharma. And if I practice the Dharma, I'm able to destroy all negative circumstances and obstacles and all harm and all suffering. And I can create the perfect conditions for Dharma practice and purify my negative karma. And so when something bad happens, then you would think that, oh, this happens because of that negative karma. So now I will not again do this. I will not again commit this negative karma. And I surely have to change my fault. I have to change my mind. So this is how you should think.
I took much more care for my children than for my parents who already passed away. What can I do now to benefit them?
Tini pama shit sara, tini koronzo da sumpe kapla, tini pama takpo shire apo ma gyap, yena yang buku tenza soso buku, ngarangi buku tela pe takpo ma bo gyap, ya bo gyap, tini pama la takpo ma gyap, tini tanda konso shit sa to tini konso pengo na karchi gore.
오, 딱 그것도 거나 근데 랑게 개와도 얘는 노세 세야 말. 얘는 노세 맞으지. 랑게 주비치 생게 되는지 나자 차도 해당 때 마뇽을 땅 것이. 랑게 주를 때는 닝지 삼바 드소 야야 제땅 삼바 때 닝지 때는 다 나다 파마랑네 네 로바 지타마서 나 뺀노 추침 부치에서 삼 다 따라 나기 저거 심지 인 강의 윤조도 소야 또 파마리 돼요. 제가 humor 파마. 단 더소는 게다 관한소는 게딘 잡본의 진행을 빠지기서 핀주토스는 심지 탐지라. 핀주토스나 드니 되게 다 관한소라의 핑결이 지랑게 늑바야 장거리스.
You should practice virtue and you should not harm others, and you should decrease the afflictions of pride and jealousy and anger in the mind, and increase the thoughts of love and compassion, and also recognize thinking that I wasn't able to really help my parents when they were alive, and that was a big mistake. But then also all sentient beings are your parents from previous lives. So they, helping them now, they represent my parents. So if I help them now, I'm helping my parents. So if you are helping all sentient beings who are your parents too, then also your deceased parents will receive benefit from that. And you will also purify your negative karma.
Sometimes it is not easy to control one's compassion towards certain matters. Even seasoned practitioners may not be able to control their emotions even after many years of practices. Does this mean that they have wasted practices and failed to understand the true meaning of compassion?
Mikashe konso lo mambo nyamen se yorava. Dini yina yang lo mambo nyamen se na darang koran so nyomon ba chune da raman da ta yo mares ra da nyomon ba yo tokke mares. Dini ninje darang ge tokke yo mares. Dini din de konso lo mambo nyamen se ate option se ate dini konso tutsen chola ra wo cha de yorves kaisena konso une ninje ti ge to yo mara.
거기서 또 졸라데 차요 말데 다 냠린데 거 냠린나 이신 로 마타 버와스 당가서 냠린 가레세나 거 공농들이 연구에 당번이 끊는 줄 봤다 셈는 줄 봤다 추세야 돼 막 셈는 줄 봤다 이 하고는 니 대란 배서시네 데라 데리제나 데니 핀토고요레 당하 뜻 쳐도고 추드럼 말을 찾더니 해당도 찬타도도 좀 말을 버정을 봤어 이나 다동 배서 지초를 했어요
It's not a
Zola Karidang, Tini Kapa de Gosia.
Oh. Yeah, so Rinpoche's phone is almost, Rinpoche's battery, I guess the computer is almost finished, so he has to use his phone. But anyways, it's not a waste of time. It's just that the practice has not become authentic practice. Because as we said, all practice depends on the motivation. It's all about changing our way of thinking, our motivation. The Dharma is a practice of the mind, of changing our mind. And so whatever practice one has done, one has learned, it's of course of benefit. But even right now, if you're not able, even though you have practiced the Dharma and you still are not able to control your anger and your desire and your jealousy and so on, then you can always continue to make an effort. So even though they're not gone now, they can be gone if you make an effort.
Okay, so right, that's the last question, and we have completed answering a list of a total of 60 questions from the past 10 sessions. Thank you, Rinpoche. Can we go into dedication now? Oh, okay. So we lost Rinpoche.
Oh, she gone?
Yeah, but anyways,
maybe his battery is finished.
Yeah. So anyways, we have completed all the questions, and yeah, we'll proceed to the dedication due to the time constraint. Rinpoche?
He's back. Tanang so ngowa tengkori tana driva tukchu so leng gyap song tini tanda thuti che tini ngowa tengkori si ke ko mendo kerang kaba tikko sira kaba ko sira samar.
Rinpoche, we can't hear you. You would need to connect your mic, your audio on your mobile to Zoom.
The mobile kaba nana the Zoom audio driver zo kore ke ko mendo ke ko mendo the Zoom nana chik dona tini. How do you do that, Shu?
At the bottom left corner, there is an option. There is I think it's a mic icon. So Rinpoche has to press that, and then something like dial in with internet.
The yun chok la rawa tela the kaba nangjin chik par dok tela nena.
Yeah, he's on now.
Audio chitne. Really?
Okay, right, Rinpoche. So we will recite the dedication now. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So in English, may bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, arise where it has not been, where it has arisen. May it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. By this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state, and by defeating all enemies' confusion, the cause of suffering. May all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara. In order to train just like the hero Manjushri who knows reality as it is, and just like Samantabhadra as well, I completely dedicate all this goodness just as they did. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging, changeless nature, by the blessing of the indivisible assembly of the Sangha, may these prayers be accomplished as I have dedicated. By the virtuous accumulations of the three times of myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by this root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment.
What is prayer?
Yeah. The three jewels and three roots, trustworthy source of refuge, and in particular the Lord of the land of snow, Avalokiteshvara, Guru Padma Sambhava. I supplicate you, please follow your previous pledges. Bestow blessings that this aspiration prayer may be fulfilled most perfectly. Next page, please. Due to the degeneration of times when thought and the inner and outer elements have lost their balance, by epidemic disease unheard of, including dark forces, blight, frost, and hail, bad harvest, disrupted by the elements such as earthquake and fire. And in particular, barbaric offenses causing harm to the teachings are rampant. May all types of harm and injury around the world be swiftly pacified and overcome. May precious and supreme bodhicitta spontaneously arise in the mind streams of all beings, human and non-human, and may they be free from destructive thoughts and deeds. May all be endowed with a loving mind for one another, and may well-being, glory, and prosperity prevail throughout the world. May the Buddha's teaching spread far and wide and everlast. By the truthful power of the three roots, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, by any root of virtue existing in samsara and nirvana, and by the power of our perfectly pure highest intention. May the fruition of our supplication and aspiration be attained.
Tani tsang mala tani tuji che shivu tani lakpa de kebjan namba kobde nani namba tan dona nyamyu nani ta tsang mala tuji che tani tsang pe ngonin jo mari ke pe mambo shivu ji nyamyu na dona yakbo na tani che sa tuji che tani dadon batone tsang mala ke la robjon de nyamni nano nas.
I would like to say thank you to everyone, and thank you to the translators and all of the organizers and everyone, all the practitioners who have joined the teachings. You've really shown so much interest in the practice from the beginning until the end. So thank you for that, and I hope that you will continue your study and your practice.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you very much.
Rinpoche.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome everyone.
Rinpoche. Tashidele. Thank you, Ina.
Good night.
Om Benza Sato Samaya Manupalaya Benza Sato Tinopa Tishari no Mebawa Soto Kayo Mebawa Soto Chayo Mebawa Angarato Mebawa Sarva Siddhe Meparayesa Sarva Karma Susame Siddham Shiyam Kuru Ahara Bangave Sarva Tathagata Bezama Mevasa